Chapter 1303. What? Uncle Li was taken aback. The smiles on Jiang Lianxue and the others' faces that had just been filled with joy froze. Uncle Li's soul attack was not the best, but it was good enough. How come it was ineffective against Lu Li? Uncle Li did not give up hope. His eyes glowed in a blue light again. He was about to strike again. Lu Li was enraged. He shouted, "If you do this again, I will ask Chief Master for help." Buzzing, Uncle Li's eyes glowed. Another 2 rays of blue light entered Lu Li's eyes. But Lu Li was fine. Lu Li did not dare to take the risk. He used Dragon Roar and bellowed, "Don't push me too far, or I will use Thunder Trigger, and we will all die together." Lu Li's Dragon Roar was not of much use now. The only benefit was that his voice was loud. It was so earth-shattering that the entire Valley of Artifacts heard it. Jiang Lianxue and Long Yanhai were taken aback. Patriarch Gu had been lured away, but Chief Master of Relics was still here. Such a loud roar would alert them. What was more, Lu Li's mention of Thunder Trigger would attract many people's attention. Buzzing, sure enough, countless divine wills immediately swept over. After sweeping through the area, many figures in the courtyards immediately soared into the sky and quickly flew over. "Uncle Li, do it. I will bear all the consequences." Jiang Lianxue bit her teeth. There was a glint of madness in her eyes. She was betting that Lu Li would not use Thunder Trigger, or he would die as well. Whoosh! A glint of cruelty rose in Uncle Li's eyes. He dashed toward Lu Li in a blink of an eye. A glaring dagger appeared in Uncle Li's hand. The dagger glowed in black, blue, and red. Uncle Li stabbed at Lu Li's head. "He's trying to kill me." Lu Li sensed a fatal danger in his soul. In a split of a second, a strand of divine energy rose in his hand. The Thunder Trigger in his hand glowed in 7 colors. There seemed to be many streams of air moving around, bumping against each other. The sphere did not explode. Instead, it was getting brighter and more dazzling. This lunatic, Long Yanhai, Long Yanshan, and the others were drained of all color. They tried to run away. Uncle Li was also frightened. He didn't dare to continue attacking and quickly retreated. As for Jiang Lianxue, Meng Yu, and the others, they were scared out of their wits. Their delicate bodies were trembling violently, and their legs were trembling. Jiang Lianxue's calves were faintly oozing yellow liquid. She was actually scared to the point of peeing. Buzz! In the sky, Xianqi in heaven and earth surged. Then, a semi-transparent hand suddenly appeared and reached toward Lu Li. Big hands? He grabbed Lu Li in his hand, and then the space around Lu Li was frozen. The Thunder Trigger stopped glowing. Long Xuesha has made his move? Amazing! Lu Li was relieved. Of course, he didn't want to die. Just now, he used the lightning trigger on purpose. He believed that the powerful warriors in the Valley of Relics had the ability to seal it. The reason why he did this was obvious. He wanted to solve the problem once and for all, so that no one in the Chamber of Relics would dare to trouble him anymore. He had enough enemies outside. If there were still people in the Artifact Pavilion who wanted to make trouble for him from time to time, he would have a hard time in the future. He reckoned that after today's matter, his name as a madman would spread, right? In the future, the younger generation, even the ordinary elders, would not dare to find trouble with him, right? Whoosh! Several people flew over. An old man with a full beard showed up in front of Lu Li. The old man grabbed the lightning trigger in Lu Li's hand. Then, after a dark glare, the lightning trigger quieted down completely. "Nonsense!" Lu Li heard an angry voice. From the north came a man. Lu Li looked up and saw it was the Chief of Chamber of Relics. Many patriarchs came from 3 directions. All of them stood in the yard with gloomy faces. If the lightning trigger were not sealed, a small half of the disciples in the Valley of Relics would have been killed. Qian Huanhan came back to his senses at this moment. He still had the lightning trigger in his hand, but the bearded old man took it away. The pavilion master swept his cold gaze across the scene and snorted coldly. "Who can tell me what happened? How dare you activate the lightning trigger? Are you out of your mind? Where did you get the lightning trigger?" Jiang Lianxue and Meng Yu had not recovered from the fright yet. Jiang Lianxue's feet were covered in yellow liquid. How could she say anything? As for Long Yinhai and the others, they had just left the yard. They did not know if they should come in or stay where they were. Qian Huanhan was under a spiritual attack, so he did not know what happened. Uncle Li said nothing. Lu Li knew that he had to take the initiative in this situation. He took a step forward, bowed, and said, "Disciple Lu Li greets the pavilion master and all the elders. Here's what happened. Young Lady Jiang broke in with someone and sent this man to take us down. We said that we should wait for Patriarch Gu to come back, but they insisted on it. Just now, this man wanted to kill us. We had to protect ourselves. I know the power of a lightning trigger, but I believe that the patriarchs in the hall are powerful enough to stop it. I had to resort to this to save my life. I am wrong. Please punish me, Chief." Qian Huanhan came back to his senses. He bowed and said, "Chief, nice to meet you. It is as Lu Li said. Just now, I used the lightning trigger to make them leave. But this Lord Li still attacked me with a soul attack. If it were not for Lu Li, Chief, and the patriarchs, we would all be dead." The pavilion master's expression didn't change. His face was still gloomy as he asked, "I just asked you where the Thunderbringer came from. You haven't answered me." Before Lu Li could answer, Qian Huanhan stepped forward and said, "My master gave it to me to protect myself. He gave me two, and I just gave one to Lu Li. Where is Shanha?" Chief asked coldly after checking with psychic power. "Where is Shanha?" Qian Huanhan glanced to Jiang Lianxue and the others. He cupped his fists and said, "My master left in a hurry. I think Sister Jiang Lianxue and the others should know where he is." "It is not like that." Jiang Lianxue finally came to her senses. If this went on, she would be in the wrong. She hurried over despite the fact that her dress was wet. "Grandpa Four, it is not like that. We just wanted to erase a part of Qian Huanhan's and Lu Li's memory. We didn't want to kill them. But Lu Li is a lunatic. He really used the lightning trigger. He is insane. We cannot let a man like him stay in the hall. Otherwise, we will be in big trouble." "Shut up," Chief scolded coldly. "Go back and clean yourself up. What a scandal." Everyone here was a powerful warrior. They could tell what Jiang Lianxue was from the watermark on her dress and the faint smell. Jiang Lianxue was so ashamed that she wished she could crawl into the ground. She covered her face with her hands and ran away, crying. "Bring Qian Huanhan and Lu Li to the Hall of Discipline." Chapter 1304. In the Hall of Law, everyone stood in silence. Jiang Lianxue came back after changing into a new robe. Chief Master and Long Shuisha did not sit in the main seats. Patriarch Sun from the Hall of Law was the chief interrogator, while Jiang Lianxue and Long Shuisha sat on the side, emotionless. Patriarch Sun had been a patriarch of the Hall of Law all his life. He was experienced. He asked questions one by one. When he was questioning someone, the others were not allowed to speak. Patriarch Sun was skillful in his questioning. With just a few words, he had laid out the truth. Everyone here was a sly fox. They could figure out the details easily. Back at the Brown Blood Mountain, Qian Huanhan and Lu Li peeked at Jiang Lianxue and Meng Yu's naked bodies. Maybe the two did not shut off their senses and knew everything. Therefore, Jiang Lianxue brought Uncle Li with her to erase Lu Li's and Qian Huanhan's memories. Lu Li and Qian Huanhan were not willing to have their memories erased or to be manipulated. Therefore, they took out the lightning trigger to force Li Feng to leave. However, Li Feng resorted to soul attack. In the end, Lu Li used the lightning trigger to alert everyone. It was simple. If it were not for the fact that Lu Li used the lightning trigger in the end, what happened today would have been trivial. Chief Master and the patriarchs would not have paid attention. There were two things wrong with this. First, Jiang Lianxue tricked Patriarch Gu away so that she could attack Qian Huanhan and Lu Li. Second, Lu Li used the lightning trigger in the end. Deceiving the patriarchs was tantamount to deceiving the master. The first rule of the Hall of Relics was that deceiving the master was a serious offense. If it were not for Long Shuisha, many in the Chamber of Relics would have perished today. This was a serious offense. If this matter was not dealt with seriously, the other disciples might follow suit. The consequences would be unimaginable. Patriarch Sun was supposed to be in charge of the conviction. However, Qian Huanhan was Patriarch Gu's personal student, and Jiang Lianxue was from the Chief Master's family. Her father was a patriarch of the Chamber of Relics. Patriarch Sun could not make the decision. Cupping his fists, he asked Chief Master, "Chief Master, how do you think we should deal with this?" The pavilion master expressionlessly scanned the hall. Today, many elders had come, a total of 40 to 50 of them. He paused for a moment and asked, "Everyone, tell me, how should we deal with this matter?" The fact that the pavilion master didn't give any instructions himself meant that he couldn't make up his mind. Or perhaps he needed the elders to help him say something that was difficult to say. Many patriarchs understood. One of them stood up and said, "I think Luli has used the trigger of thunder in the valley. He cannot be forgiven. I suggest that he be expelled from the Chamber of Relics." Jiang Lianxue, Qian Huanhan, and Long Yunhai should be locked up for a year as punishment. Luli glanced over with a cold smile on his face. Qian Huanhan panicked when he heard that. He wanted to say something, but Elder Sun glanced at him coldly. "You're all guilty. I didn't ask you to speak, so shut up. Otherwise, you will be even more guilty." Luli patted Qian Huanhan's shoulder to tell him to take it easy and wait for the patriarchs to finish. Qian Huanhan stood there, fuming. He looked at the patriarchs coldly, waiting for their opinion. Another patriarch stood up, ignoring Qian Huanhan's stare. The patriarch cupped his fists to Chief Master and Long Xuesha. "I think Patriarch Lei's punishment is too light. If it were not for Patriarch Long, how many people would have died? Is it enough to just expel Lu Li from the Chamber of Relics? I think Lu Li should be executed as a warning to the disciples." Qian Huanhan could no longer stand, but Lu Li grabbed Qian Huanhan's arm and glared at him, telling him to keep quiet. Lu Li himself was calm. Apart from the faint hint of mockery, he didn't seem to be upset. He looked on coldly, as if he was looking at a bunch of monkeys jumping up and down. It was ridiculous. Lu Li's reaction had enraged several patriarchs. They stood up and agreed with this patriarch's suggestion to sentence Lu Li to death. As for the crimes of Jiang Lianxue and the others, they didn't even mention it. It was as if this was a special meeting to judge Lu Li. Another patriarch raised an objection. "I think Lu Li had no other choice. Just now, he said that Li Feng was going to kill him. He did it to protect himself because he had no other choice. In the end, it didn't lead to a disaster, did it? I think we can just sentence him to death and expel him from the Chamber of Relics. We can just imprison him for 1,000 years as a punishment." Lu Li looked at this patriarch gratefully. This patriarch had a conscience. Clearly, the other patriarchs were going against their conscience. But on second thought, Jiang Lianxue was from the Chief Master's family, and her father was a patriarch. Even though her father didn't say anything, the fact that her father was sitting here today was a show of his attitude. There was also Long Yunhai and the others. Long Xuesha was sitting up there. Long Yunhai and the others had only followed him over without doing anything. Even if they did do something, they would turn it into a trivial matter. On the other hand, Lu Li, he was an insignificant disciple, and Patriarch Gu had criticized him in public. A disciple like him was at the bottom of the Chamber of Relics. He had no power, no background, and no talent. For many patriarchs, the execution of a disciple like him was not worth mentioning. The patriarchs only mentioned Lu Li instead of Qian Huanhan because Qian Huanhan was Patriarch Gu's private student. Patriarch Gu would not be happy with the punishment. What was more, it was Lu Li who used the lightning trigger, and he almost caused a disaster. Who else could they blame but Lu Li? This was a serious matter. Someone must take the fall. Otherwise, how could the disciples be deterred? How could they clean up the rules? How could they warn the future generations? Many patriarchs expressed their opinions. Most of them chose to punish Lu Li severely. Some of the others gave up, and some spoke up for Lu Li. But without exception, nobody said to punish Jiang Lianxue and Li Feng severely. When most of the patriarchs had expressed their opinions and no one else said anything, Chief Master turned to Lu Li and said, "Lu Li, Do you have anything to say? If not, I'm going to convict you. Of course, Luli had something to say, but he did not defend himself. He cupped his fists and asked, Chief Master, will my words affect the result of the punishment? If my words are meaningless, then I don't want to waste your time. Luli's calmness and words surprised many patriarchs. They had been in this situation many times. Most of the time, people would cry out, beg for mercy, or swear at the top of their lungs. However, Luli was so calm. Was he not going to defend himself? This punk is smart. Patriarch Sun and the other patriarchs from the Hall of Law looked at each other and exclaimed to themselves. Luli's words were calm, but he had forced Chief Master into a dead end. Was Chief Master going to say that nothing Luli said would work? Chief Master would not say that. If Chief Master said that Luli's words would work, then he would be falling into Luli's trap. Chief Master could become the Chief Master of Chamber of Relics and a master craftsman. Naturally, Chief Master was a smart man. He would not fall into Luli's trap. He said emotionlessly, You have to tell me before you know if it will work or not. If you don't, I will assume that you are obeying the sentence. I will talk. Chapter 1305. Luli revealed the truth. If he and Jiang Lianxue had switched identities, the result of the punishment would have been different. At that time, everyone would only say that Jiang Lianxue was making trouble. Eventually, she would be locked up for a period of time. Jiang Lianxue's surname was Jiang. The Pavilion Master's surname was also Jiang. Who dared to execute the Pavilion Master's clansmen? Who would dare to expel the Pavilion Master's clansmen from the pavilion? They were well aware of many things, but they would not say it out loud. Luli had unraveled the veil and given the patriarchs a slap in the face. Before the other patriarchs could refute, Luli said again, I think the rules of the sect should treat everyone equally. We shouldn't judge based on status and identity. If a prince breaks the law, he will be punished the same as a commoner. Otherwise, not only will I not be convinced, all the other disciples will not be convinced. Luli took a breath and continued in a loud voice. If you were in my shoes, someone would want to wipe your memory, humiliate you, or kill you. Are you going to stand there and let others humiliate you? Are you going to let others control your fate? Stand there and wait to be killed? After Li Feng failed to launch a soul attack on me, he still wanted to attack me. When I shouted and alerted everyone in the valley, Jiang Lianxue still ordered him to attack me. He even took out his weapon to kill me. Everyone, tell me, what should I do? If I didn't activate the Heavenly Thunderbringer, it wouldn't be your turn to judge me right now. I would already be dead. Am I supposed to die? If Jiang Lianxue and Li Feng want to kill me, should I just stand there and let them kill me? Tell me, what's the logic behind this? Elder Gu once said that the Heavenly Thunderbringer is very powerful, but if an expert wants to make a move, it can instantly seal them. He said that there were at least 3 people in the pavilion who could seal the Heavenly Thunderbringer, so I activated it. I don't want to perish indiscriminately, nor do I want to drag the disciples of the pavilion down with me. I just want to protect myself. If I wanted to perish indiscriminately, why would I need to alert the Pavilion Master and the elders? Have you ever thought about that? I, Luli, am just an average disciple in the pavilion. My status is lowly. But I would like to ask all of you, when you were my age, were you already Hall Masters and Elders? There were tens of thousands of disciples in the pavilion. Were they all going to receive unfair treatment? Could it be that when you were young, when you were still disciples, you deserved to be treated like this? The Artifact Pavilion is famous in the south of the Divinity Realm, and it is the model of all sects in the Divinity Realm. It has the magnanimity to swallow the whole world. Why can't you accept a little disciple like me? I'm done. Whether it's meaningful or not, I just want to express my attitude. If you insist on killing me, then I, Luli, have nothing to say and I will not resist. I don't ask for anything. I only ask that you stop talking about those high-sounding principles. Everyone has a scale in their hearts. Everyone knows the truth in their hearts. Don't insult each other's intelligence, okay? Luli spoke eloquently, but his tone wasn't intense or angry. His expression was calm, as if he was narrating someone else's story. The hall quieted down after Luli's words. As Luli said, everyone knew the truth. At this moment, if he continued to shout insults, he would be like a clown. Those that could reach a certain realm were not idiots. The Chamber of Relics had always been about rules. They claimed to be a righteous sect, and they were reasonable in everything. The patriarchs cared about their reputation. What would others think of them if they jumped out at this moment? You are so eloquent. Patriarch Sun and the other patriarchs looked at each other and exclaimed to themselves. The best thing about Lu Li was that he had been calm the entire time. His tone wasn't extreme, and he was polite. He was reasonable and never pestered. Sometimes he would stir up emotions, but not too much. At the same time, he had set up several situations and quoted many principles. It just so happened that nobody dared to refute those principles. That was the universally acknowledged truth. Usually, the patriarchs would talk about it. To refute Lu Li would be a slap to their own faces. Was this world really fair? The answer was no. Would a prince be punished the same as a commoner when he broke the law? It was ridiculous. Laws were made by the ruling class. Laws were designed to protect the power of the ruling class, to rule the people, and to restrain the civilians. In other words, laws were made by the rulers to the ruled. The rulers were the ones who made the rules, and they could change the rules at any time. Jiang Lianxue had broken the rules, and so had Lu Li. But one was the privileged class, and the other the people at the bottom. Now, the ruler needed someone to take the blame. He needed someone to warn the ruled, to play according to the rules of the game. That person must be Lu Li, not Jiang Lianxue. Otherwise, the chief's prestige would be affected, and the chief would not be able to answer to the races. Just as Lu Li said, everyone knew what was going on, and they spoke against their conscience. But there was nothing they could do about it. The patriarchs were of a privileged class. If they did not defend their own, would they defend Lu Li, a disciple at the bottom? Lu Li's clever move was to point this out. The patriarchs who were obsessed with fame were afraid to speak up. Many patriarchs were angry. But if they continued to speak, they would be humiliated if Lu Li chased after them. Everyone had witnessed Lu Li's glib tongue. The others didn't say anything, but Jiang Lianxue's father had to. He stood up, cupped his fist to the chief and Long Xuesha, and said, Lu Li, you are eloquent. You know how to twist the facts and arouse people's sympathy. You know how to flatter the chief and the patriarchs. But no matter what, you used Thunder Trigger and almost caused the tragic death of many disciples. You cannot change the fact. Doesn't it count as rape if it doesn't go through? What kind of fallacy is that? You have broken the rules. That is a fact. No matter how you explain it, you cannot get around it. Lu Li didn't know Jiang Lianxue's father, but he must be Jiang Lianxue's relative if he dared to speak up. Lu Li smiled, cupped his fists, and said, Patriarch, you are mistaken. I didn't rape. As a matter of fact, it was Jiang Lianxue who started the fight. If someone wanted to rape, it was she who wanted to rape me. Tell me, under those circumstances, should I fight back or should I enjoy it? PFF, a patriarch had just taken a sip of tea and spat it out. Many other patriarchs couldn't help but want to laugh as well. Eventually, they pretended to cough and turned around. Jiang Lianxue's face was burning. Her eyes were spitting fire. Today, she had been disgraced to the core. What she did at the Brown Blood Mountain was exposed. Today, she wet her pants and was scolded by the chief. Now, Lu Li was saying in front of so many people that she was going to rape him. She was enraged. Pointing at Lu Li, she said, Lu Li, you bastard. I will kill you. I will kill you. Jiang Lianxue was right next to Lu Li. She took out a red sword which gave off a dark and blue glow. She stabbed at Lu Li in a flash. Qian Huanhan hurried to stand in front of Lu Li. His supreme relic armor appeared. Jiang Lianxue's weapon was a supreme relic. Qian Huanhan thought that Lu Li did not have a supreme relic armor, so he wanted to protect Lu Li from Jiang Lianxue. At this moment, a cold snort sounded from outside, followed by a hoarse old voice. Jiang Zuqiang, you've raised a good daughter. She dares to assassinate my disciple in front of the pavilion master and all the elders? Chapter 1306. Patriarch Gu should not have come back so soon. According to the original plan, it would take at least 2 hours. There must be a reason for him to come back earlier. Last time at the Brown Blood Mountain, Patriarch Gu gave Lu Li and Qian Huanhan a golden jade talisman each. Lu Li had used his, and Qian Huanhan's was not used yet. When they came to the Hall of Law, Lu Li asked Qian Huanhan to crush the jade talisman. Patriarch Gu must have sensed it. He must know that something was wrong and came back at once. Back at the Valley of Relics, Patriarch Gu asked around and learned the gist of the matter. As soon as he stepped into the Hall of Law, he heard that Jiang Lianxue wanted to kill Lu Li and that she was hacking at Qian Huanhan with her sword. How could he not be angry? The Hall of Law was a spacious hall with many powerful warriors. Naturally, Patriarch Gu would not allow Jiang Lianxue to kill someone here. Just now, Chief and Jiang Lianxue's father were about to stop Jiang Lianxue. Unexpectedly, Patriarch Gu came back. Coincidentally, he happened to run into this. Whoosh! Chief moved his hand. After a white glare, Jiang Lianxue's sword was knocked away. Chief scolded, "Jiang Lianxue, have you had enough?" Jiang Lianxue was already startled to see Patriarch Gu come in. She was terrified. Now, her sword was knocked away and she was scolded by Chief with a hostile tone. Jiang Lianxue did not dare to act recklessly. She stood there, feeling wronged. Her eyes reddened and tears welled up. Patriarch Gu did not look at Jiang Lianxue. He cupped his fist to Long Xuesha and walked to Lu Li and Qian Huanhan. "Tell me the details." Lu Li said nothing. Qian Huanhan told Patriarch Gu in a low voice. He did not exaggerate. He just told the whole story. He believed that Patriarch Gu could tell the difference easily. Patriarch Gu pulled a long face. When he heard that Li Feng wanted to kill Lu Li, his eyes were spitting fire. When Qian Huanhan finished, Patriarch Gu cupped his fists and said, "Chief, how should we deal with this? Shanhe did not teach his disciples well. How about we banish him and me?" What? The criminal law hall was in an uproar. Elder Gu didn't have a good relationship with many elders, and he even became enemies with a few elders. But when Elder Gu said this, the expressions of the group still changed. It wouldn't matter if Elder Gu was just an ordinary elder, but Elder Gu was the only great divine craftsman who could refine the Thunderbringer. Once Elder Gu left the Artifact Pavilion, it would be a huge loss for the Artifact Pavilion. If Elder Gu joined a rival crafting sect, it would be a heavy blow to the Artifact Pavilion. The owner's expression changed slightly. Then, he said with a straight face, "Shanhe, what are you doing? You don't even trust me?" The Pavilion Master's last sentence made Jiang Lianxue's father and others' hearts skip a beat. Was the Pavilion Master going to set the tone? That being said, Patriarch Gu was so determined to protect Qian Huanhan and Lu Li that he was willing to leave the Chamber of Relics. Even if Lu Li and Qian Huanhan killed some average disciples, the chief would have to give in, not to mention this. The Pavilion Master thought for a moment and walked towards the side hall. At the door, he said to Elder Gu, "Shanhe, come in for a moment." Patriarch Gu walked in with a gloomy face. Lu Li and Qian Huanhan looked at each other. Both were relieved. They both knew that they had passed today's test. Even if there were going to be punishments, it would be minor. Qian Huanhan gave Lu Li a thumbs up. He was completely convinced by Lu Li's performance today. If it were not for Lu Li's reminder, Qian Huanhan would not have thought of breaking the Jade Talisman to warn Patriarch Gu. If it were Qian Huanhan, he would not have been able to speak so calmly and leave the Patriarch speechless. Lu Li, on the other hand, wasn't too surprised because he had already seen this coming. Patriarch Gu valued Lu Li. Once Patriarch Gu made up his mind to protect Lu Li, nobody in the Chamber of Relics would dare to lay a finger on Lu Li. It was because of this that Lu Li dared to use Lightning Trigger. He wanted to settle this once and for all. He believed that after this, nobody in the Chamber of Relics would have the guts to trouble him. Also, if he did not use Lightning Trigger, he could have been seriously injured or even killed by Li Feng. It was quiet in the hall. The patriarchs were not happy. They looked at Lu Li and Qian Huanhan in a hostile manner. Lu Li did not mind. He did not rely on the patriarchs to help him. He was not capable enough, so no one could help him. As long as he was capable, nobody could stop him from ascending to the top. A moment later, the Pavilion Master and Elder Gu walked out together. Elder Gu's expression became calm as he expressionlessly sat down on a seat. Chief looked at the patriarchs and said, Jiang Lianxue and Li Feng were the ones who stirred up trouble. The impact is very negative. I announce that Jiang Lianxue's status as a core disciple is revoked, and she will be grounded for 5 years. Li Feng will be grounded for 10 years, and Long Yanhai, Long Yanshan, and Long Wentian will be grounded for half a year. Qian Huanhan will be grounded for 3 months. Lu Li is at fault as well. He will be grounded for half a year. Inform the entire Chamber of Relics as a warning to others. Even though the patriarchs had seen this coming, many found it hard to accept the chief's announcement. Jiang Lianxue's status as a core disciple was revoked, and she was grounded for 5 years. She was at the most impulsive age. She must have lost her mind after being grounded for 5 years. More importantly, Long Yanhai and the others did nothing, and yet they were grounded for half a year. Lu Li was grounded for half a year after making such a big mess. That was the difference in treatment. Who was Lu Li? Long Yanhai was Long Xuesha's grandson. How could he be treated the same as Lu Li? Many people were confused. Even Long Xuesha was displeased. Jiang Lianxue's father was taken aback. He stood up, bowed and said, Chief, say no more. Chief waved his hand in a domineering manner and said, I have made up my mind. Say no more. Chief did not mind Jiang Lianxue's father's attitude. He just threw Long Xuesha a glance and winked at him. Long Xuesha said nothing in the end. He waved his hand and said, Chief, now that you have made your decision, let's carry it out. Dismissed. Someone, patriarch son of the Hall of Law, waved his hand and said, Bring Jiang Lianxue, Long Yanhai, Lu Li, and Qian Huanhan to the backyard and ground them. A group of disciples from the Hall of Law came and escorted Jiang Lianxue, Lu Li, and the others away. Patriarch Gu left without saying anything. The other patriarchs excused themselves. Jiang Lianxue's father felt wronged, but he did not dare to disobey the chief's order. He left in a huff. The hall, which was originally filled with people, suddenly became empty. Patriarch's son went to make arrangements. Only Chief and Long Xuesha were left in the hall. Chief looked at Long Xuesha and said, You have spoiled Yunhai and Yunshan too much. Let them go through more hardships. It will be better for their growth in the future. I know. I'm not against it. Long Xuesha touched his beard and asked with a frown, I just don't understand why Lu Li is being punished like this. Many disciples in the department will not accept this. Did Shani speak up for him? Buzzing, Chief suddenly activated a soundproof inhibition formation. His eyes glowed as he said, Xuesha, this cannot be told to others. Pretend you know nothing after you hear it. That Lu Li is the real apprentice of Shanhe. Qian Huanhan is just a cover. What's more, Lu Li has learned the Slayer's move. What? Chapter 1307. There was a castle at the northwest corner of the Valley of Relics. It was not a large castle. There was only one door and no windows, which gave a spooky look. This castle was a nightmare for many disciples in the Valley of Relics. Usually, some disciples would not even want to go near this place. Once they did, they would feel a chill down their spines. This was the prison of the Chamber of Relics. Many disciples had died here. They were driven mad and committed suicide in here. Disciples who were sentenced to be imprisoned here for thousands or tens of thousands of years would not be able to walk out. They would either lose their minds or die. Lu Li and the others were brought here and put in a small room. Lu Li was taken to a room. It was dark and cold. It was uncomfortable to be in here. Creak. After bringing Lu Li in, the disciple of the Hall of Law closed the door and activated the inhibition formation. Lu Li curled his lips. The Chamber of Relics was a strange place. Jiang Lianxue would lose her mind if she were to stay here for 5 years. Lu Li heard a scream. He frowned. There was an inhibition formation in here, but it did not seem to be soundproof. Or was it that the master who built the inhibition formation in this prison did it on purpose? Was the master trying to instill fear in the people here and make them suffer? Let me out. Let me out. It is so dark here. I am scared. Father, help me. Woo. Jiang Lianxue cried again. She sounded like she was crying and filled with fear. She was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. She had never been wronged since she was a kid. This time, not only was she humiliated, but she was also locked up in a place like this. Jiang Lianxue was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Sister Lianxue, don't be afraid. Long Yinhai said, comforting her. Sister, you can take out some treasures to light up the place. You will be less afraid when there is light. Think of this as your bedroom. You can cultivate in your room for a while. You will be fine soon. Li Feng said, Young lady, don't be afraid. I am here. Young Master Long is right. Take out a luminous pearl to light up the place. We are nearby. It will be fine. Jiang Lianxue's voice came again. She cried, Uncle Li, Brother Yinhai, I'm still scared. Am I really going to be locked up here for 5 years? If that's the case, I would rather die. Uncle Li hurriedly consoled her. Don't worry. Mississippi Master will definitely think of a way. Don't worry. You must believe in Master. The more you cause a ruckus, the angrier the Pavilion Master will be. Listen to me and sit down obediently. Cultivate for a period of time first. I'm scared. I'm so scared. Luli was fed up with Jiang Lianxue's intermittent voice. He recalled that there was a method to set up a soundproof restrictive spell in Tian Lingzi's book collection. Therefore, he first took out a luminous pearl to illuminate the room, then took out a formation stone and started to set it up. The soundproof inhibition formation was a simple one. Luli managed to set it up after a while. Luli could no longer hear any noise from the outside. He took out the ancient book and began to read with ease. Half a year was a short time for Luli. He could finish it after several rounds of cultivation. Even if he wasn't confined, it was likely that he would be reading books in Elder Gu's courtyard and learning about array formations and restrictions. It was quiet in the room. After a while, Luli calmed down. He immersed himself in the ocean of inhibition formations and once again forgot about the chaos outside. After a long time, the door was opened all of a sudden. Luli's soundproof inhibition formation was broken. He put away the book and looked up. It was Patriarch Gu. Buzzing, Patriarch Gu closed the door and built a soundproof inhibition formation. Looking at Luli, he said, You are so heartless. You seem to be having a good time here. Luli cupped his fists in shame and said, I am sorry to have troubled you, Master. It is my fault. It's not a problem. Patriarch Gu's eyebrows twitched. This is the fault of that crazy girl, Jiang Lianxue. You did nothing wrong, but you're out of your mind. If Long Shuasha had been a bit slower, you and Qin Huanhan would have been doomed. Ha Luli smiled. Patriarch Long Shuasha is ranked over 300 on the list, and the chief is a master craftsman. If he could not control the thunder trigger, he would not deserve to be a master craftsman. We are not the only ones who have the thunder trigger. Lady Dan has it as well. I think Long Yinhai has it as well. If Chief could not control it, how could he let Lady Dan and the others carry it around? You are a shrewd man. Patriarch Gu curled his lips. I have told Chief about you. Eventually, Long Shuesha will know as well. Of course, I'm only telling him that you understand the Slayer's move and that you are my personal student. Otherwise, do you think Chief would only let you stay here for half a year? Luli didn't care about this. He just asked with concern, Will Master and Patriarch Long leak the information out? If the Palace of Evil Spirit finds out, I will not have a chance to get close to Cho Qianjun anymore. Don't worry. Patriarch Gu waved his hand. Many patriarchs in the hall are not trustworthy. But Chief and Patriarch Long are trustworthy. Okay, cultivate here for half a year. Patriarch Gu took out some books from his ring and gave them to Luli. Study the formations and inhibition formations in these books. When you are done, I will teach you how to forge artifacts. Right? Patriarch Gu remembered something. He took out 10 rocks of icy soul from his ring and handed them to Luli. These are from the Hall of Internal Affairs. Take them. I am leaving. Patriarch Gu did not say anything to comfort Luli, but Luli felt warm. This lonely old man was truly good to him. Even though Patriarch Gu had the thought of using Luli to avenge him, Lu Li could feel the sincerity beneath his old-fashioned appearance. Patriarch Gu left. The inhibition formation was activated again. Lu Li checked to make sure that nobody was around before he turned on the inhibition formation. Putting the 10 rocks of icy soul into the wicked bead, Lu Li said to Blood Fairy, "Blood Fairy, here are the 10 rocks of icy soul. Absorb the energy in them and try to evolve again. Then, you'll be a great help to me." "Thank you, Master." The immortal's body in the wicked bead grabbed the rocks of icy soul. Blood Fairy said in excitement, "With the 10 rocks of icy soul, I should be able to evolve again. By then, it will be easier for me to control the formations in the immortal's body. When I can control all the formations in the immortal's body, I think my abilities will be increased by 100 times. 100 times? Lu Li was intrigued. The immortal's body should be as strong as prefecture warriors. If so, then he should be stronger than the average mighty warriors in the divinity. With a mighty warrior as his puppet, Lu Li would be more confident to protect himself. Of course, Lu Li did not intend to rely on external forces. His own abilities were more important. He must study the Slayer's move and wind-related fundamental principle to improve his abilities. The Slayer's move. If I could get another drop of the Slayer's blood, it will be easier for me to learn it. Chapter 1308. Well, at that moment, Lu Li suddenly realized something. He had been having dangerous thoughts lately. He had been focused on becoming a master craftsman. Unconsciously, he had been thinking about external help, such as the immortal's body and the warlord skeleton. He had forgotten about his own development. After he came to the divinity, the enemies he encountered were too powerful. He could not defeat them on his own. He had to rely on external help, such as the Death Taoist, the immortal's body, and the warlord skeleton. Therefore, he was not in a hurry to improve his abilities. Recently, he had been focusing on forging artifacts and becoming a master craftsman. He did not care about improving his abilities. Even if he had improved, he could not compare with the immortal's body or the warlord skeleton. Therefore, he had been slacking. He remembered his journey from the northern desert to the peak of the 9 universes. He did not rely on external help, but on his own abilities. He improved step by step and killed his way up. Strength was the foundation. Nothing else mattered. So what if he could become a master craftsman? The divinity was filled with danger. Even if he could become a patriarch of the craftsman's sect, would he be safe? Without absolute abilities, he would never be able to control his own fate. He could die at any time. In the future, I must work hard to improve my abilities. I must not neglect the essentials. Lu Li made up his mind. He shook his head to get rid of the distracting thoughts. He began to read books and immersed himself in his cultivation. The Valley of Relics was bustling with noise and excitement. For the first time in history, such a strange thing had happened. An average disciple fought against a core disciple, a distant relative of the chief, and the core disciple was defeated. Many people could not understand this, which was why the discussion was heated. Lu Li had made a grave mistake and almost caused a disaster. Yet, he was grounded for half a year. On the other hand, Jiang Lianxue, the core disciple who was always high and mighty, was not only deprived of her core disciple status, but also grounded for 5 years. Many people wondered if Lu Li was the chief's illegitimate son. Otherwise, why would he be treated so well? Patriarch Gu had a strange temper. Why would he protect Lu Li? Lu Li's name was known across the Valley of Relics. He was a man who dared to use the lightning trigger to perish together with Jiang Lianxue, Long Yunhai, and the others. Who dared to provoke him? Even Lady Dan, who was in closed-door cultivation, heard of this. She went to argue with the chief, but she still kept a respectful distance from Lu Li, even though she was furious. After all, even the most ruthless person would be afraid of death. Lady Dan was a noble person. She would not risk her life with a low-level disciple like Lu Li. Lady Dan went to the chief and asked for Jiang Lianxue's release, but the chief did not meet her. Lady Dan angrily went to the prison to see Jiang Lianxue. However, she was turned away. The cabinet master had already ordered that Lady Dan was not allowed in. Miss Dan was so angry that she cried and ran back. She was put under house arrest by the leader. All of the disciples and elders of the god artifact pavilion became well-behaved. The pavilion leader was truly angry, and anyone who dared to cause trouble would be asking for it. 3. Qian Li, Qian Q, Qian Q, Li, He, and in long Lu as Lu, Lu as Li, as He is He, Lu. Half a Lu long as He time, Li Lu, as Lu as. Today, however, something unexpected happened. Blood Fairy had evolved once again. During this time, Blood Fairy had absorbed the energy of 7 ice soul stones. After her evolution, the speed at which she absorbed the energy of the ice soul stones had greatly increased. In just half a year, she had consumed 7 ice soul stones and successfully evolved today. After her evolution, she sent a message to Lu Li. Then, she reached out a tentacle into Lu Li's body and into his brain. Lu Li was startled. He thought Blood Fairy was going to do something crazy. The tentacle reached into Lu Li's soul, giving off a blood-red glow. What puzzled Lu Li was that the silver dragon mark in his mind did not have any reaction. Lu Li was a bit relieved. If Blood Vine was going to attack his soul, the silver dragon mark would protect its master. Buzzing at this moment, the inhibition formation in the room trembled. The door was opened. A disciple came in and said, "Lu Li, you can go now." "Wait a minute. I have other matters to attend to. I will leave later." How could Lu Li leave at this critical moment? What if Bloodvine made a move? Lu Li waved his hand and closed his eyes. That disciple from the Hall of Law blinked, thinking he had heard it wrong. All disciples in the Chamber of Relics were like snakes and scorpions. Lu Li seemed to be addicted to living here. Did he not want to leave? Seeing that Lu Li did not move, the disciple from the Hall of Law was angered. He shouted, "Get out, get out. This is not a place for you to live. If you don't leave now, you will be locked up for another half a year." Lu Li did not reply. He took out a lightning trigger. The disciple paled in fright. Was this punk going to lose his mind again? He did not want to see another farce like what happened half a year ago. Even Jiang Lianxue was trapped by Lu Li. As a disciple from the Hall of Law, he could not stand it. The disciple's tone softened as he said, "Don't do anything rash. You can go anywhere you want. Don't do anything stupid. Get out." Lu Li shouted without opening his eyes. The disciple left in a hurry, sweating on his forehead. He cursed to himself that Lu Li was a lunatic, absolutely a lunatic. What? Lu Li's attention was no longer on the disciple from the Hall of Law. Suddenly, his soul trembled. Many pieces of information appeared in his mind, all about inhibition formations. What? Lu Li sorted through the information casually. His mind was filled with astonishment. All the information was about inhibition formations, and it was a profound understanding. Most importantly, this information had actually taken the initiative to fuse with his soul. He felt that this understanding of restrictive formations was his own. This information had forcibly fused with his soul and became his own. "Master," Blood Fairy said, "I have evolved. I have gained a new ability. I can pass on my understanding of inhibition formations to you, and you can pass on your understanding of inhibition formations to me. We can complement each other and make progress together." "That is a freakish skill." Lu Li was surprised. He exclaimed after a moment of thought. All of a sudden, he asked, "Blood Fairy, can I do this? I have a lot of books about array formations here. After I read through them, I will memorize them and then transmit them to you. Can you comprehend array formations on your own through those books?" Blood Fairy said after a moment of silence. "That should not be a problem. Bloodvine's gifted skills are inhibition formations and inhibition formations. It should not be difficult to learn them." Okay. Lu Li was overjoyed. If Blood Fairy could learn the inhibition formations on her own and then transmit the information to him, then it would be a miracle. That would mean, in the future, he would no longer have to read books on inhibition formations. He would have a free worker to do his work for him. There were 4 parts to forging artifacts. The most critical part was fixing the artifact, but the most difficult part was inhibition formations and inhibition formations. To forge advanced relics, It was impossible to do so without a certain understanding of inhibition formations and inhibition formations. On the other hand, inhibition formations were profound and required a lot of time and energy to learn them. Now that he had the blood vine to meditate on his behalf, he could spare a lot of time to improve his combat capability. Bloodvine was talented in inhibition formations. With the help of Bloodvine, Luli could make rapid progress in forging artifacts in a short time. Chapter 1309. Luli stayed in there for half a day before he slowly walked out. Qian Huanhan had been waiting outside for a long time. If it wasn't for the fact that people were not allowed to barge in, he would have rushed in. "Brotherly, what are you doing inside? Why did you only come out now?" Qian Huanhan came up and asked in confusion. Luli answered casually, "Nothing. I have lived here for half a year, and I don't want to leave." Qian Huanhan rolled his eyes and whispered, "Brotherly, I've successfully forged a divine artifact 2 days ago. My master taught me. Hee, it's just the lowest grade of divine artifacts." "Amazing." Luli gave Patriarch Gu a thumbs up. Even though he had Patriarch Gu to guide him, he couldn't do anything without some foundation. It seemed like Qian Huanhan had not been slacking off during this period of time. Even if it was the lowest grade of divine tool, as long as he could craft it, he could be considered as a blacksmith. Hee. Qian Huanhan scratched his head and said, "Brotherly, you've been studying the formation. If you had explored the last 2 steps first, you would have been able to forge a divine artifact as well. Your talent is much better than mine. Let's not talk about this. Let's go back first." Luli waved his hand and walked toward Patriarch Gu's yard with Qian Huanhan. Back in the yard, Luli went to see Patriarch Gu at once. Patriarch Gu was still studying how to improve the thunder trigger. Seeing Luli coming back, Patriarch Gu nodded with a straight face. Qian Huanhan continued to forge weapons. Strive to forge divine weapons on your own and become a real weapon forger. Elder Gu waved his hand to dismiss Qian Huanhan. After he left, Patriarch Gu asked, "Luli, have you made any progress after staying in there for half a year?" "Yes." Luli thought of the bloodvine. He wanted to give Patriarch Gu a heads up. Otherwise, Patriarch Gu would be shocked if Luli progressed too fast. Luli said, "I have made some progress in inhibition formations. I am trying to figure out the 2 steps of artifact spirit and artifact stabilization. After a while, I should be able to try to forge a divine artifact." "Okay, then take a look at these books. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to look for me." Patriarch Gu nodded and gave Luli more than a dozen books about artifact spirits and stabilizing artifacts. Luli took it over and thanked Patriarch Gu. He was about to leave when Patriarch Gu remembered something and said, "Right, in half a year, there will be a tournament of craftsmen. Do you want to go and broaden your horizons? If you want to go, I can help you ask for a spot from the pavilion master." "A competition of tens of thousands of craftsmen?" Luli asked with a frown. "Is it a gathering of craftsmen?" "To be more precise, it's a grand gathering of the younger generation of blacksmiths." Elder Gu explained. "It's organized by the craftsmen's sect. It's held once every 10 years, and all young craftsmen can participate. If one could refine a good divine artifact, or set up a strange formation, or forge an interesting artifact embryo, or anything related to artifact forging, as long as one's performance was good, he would be rewarded by the craftsman's sect. This time, it's also a divine material trading convention, and the old fellows will go there to exchange pointers and exchange what they need." "Oh." Luli understood now. He shook his head after some thoughts and said, "I don't think I will go. I have just learned how to forge artifacts. I will be a disgrace to my master if I go. It's better for me to stay at home and meditate. When the next Myriad Craftsman tournament comes, I can go and fight for master's glory." "Sure, go ahead." Patriarch Gu knew that given Lu Li and Qian Huanhan's abilities, it was pointless for them to go. The best they could do was broaden their horizons. Since Luli did not want to go, Patriarch Gu would not force him. Luli came back and chatted with Qian Huanhan for a while before he went back to his room. Luli put aside the books Patriarch Gu gave him and took out Tian Lingzi's collection of books. He began to read them one by one. Previously, it would take Luli a long time to read a book. After all, he had to study the principles in the books. But now, Luli did not have to think about anything. He just had to memorize every word and then send them to the bloodvine so that she could study them herself. This was so efficient. Luli could read 10 books in 2 hours and 100 in a day. His soul was strong now. He had a photographic memory, and he could read quickly. At this rate, it would take him less than a year to finish the tens of thousands of books. Luli read for 4 to 5 days and read hundreds of books. He told the bloodvine to send the information over and then let the bloodvine try to study them. If the bloodvine could learn them and then pass them on to her, Luli would not have to worry about anything else. He would leave the inhibition formations to the bloodvine. In just one day, Bloodvine's voice rang in Luli's mind. "Master, I have learned all the knowledge you have given me. Everything is fine." "Good." Luli was excited. He continued to read quickly to commit the knowledge in the books to memory. Then, he would send the information to the bloodvine for her to study. The knowledge on inhibition formations that the bloodvine learned quickly would be sent back to Luli. It would be integrated into Luli's soul knowledge so that he could learn it himself. It was as if Luli's soul already had this kind of knowledge. This was fast. Luli absorbed the knowledge in the collection left by Tian Lingzi like crazy. He almost forgot to eat or sleep. It was only because his soul was exhausted that he stopped to take a nap. He had been cultivating divine energy. At this stage, he no longer needed to eat. He could replenish his energy by absorbing Xian energy in heaven and earth. For several months after he came back, he hardly went out. Patriarch Gu only called him once. He went to see Patriarch Gu and spent the rest of his time in his room, reading. During the 5 months, Luli had read more than 10,000 books. Including the thousands he read before, he had read more than half of Tian Lingzi's collection. During this time, he had been digesting the knowledge passed down by the bloodvine every day. He believed that he might not be proficient in forging artifacts, but he had made great progress in inhibition formations. At least, the average core disciples did not have a deeper understanding of inhibition formations, let alone the patriarchs. The bloodvine was gifted in inhibition formations. If Luli were to study the books, he would not be able to learn them without years or even decades. Luli could learn them almost instantly with the bloodvine. During this time, the bloodvine's ability in inhibition formations had improved greatly. It was a win-win situation for Luli and her. Forging artifacts was a tedious task. The main reason was that the knowledge of inhibition formations and inhibition formations was too vast. Not even a master craftsman could say that he was proficient in any of them. The divinity had existed for tens of millions of years. Many ancestors had created various inhibition formations. To master the basics of inhibition formations would take years. If one was not talented enough, he or she could not achieve much even after studying for a lifetime. Luli was talented in this regard. That being said, the bloodvine only spent 5 months to finish the journey that would have taken him years or even decades. Buzzing, when Luli was exhausted and ready to take a rest, the inhibition formation in his room was triggered. Luli opened the door. Qian Huanhan rushed in and said excitedly, "Brother Li, the competition of craftsmen is about to begin. I just heard that many talents in forging artifacts will be there. Lady Dan will be there as well. Brother Li, can I ask my master to get us 2 spots?" "Not interested. I am not going." Luli waved his hand. Patriarch Gu had told him about this 5 months ago. Though he had made great progress in inhibition formations over the past 5 months, he did not want to attract too much attention, nor did he want to participate in such boring competitions. Chapter 13:10. Luli was still not interested. But since Qian Huanhan was so excited, Luli asked casually, "Who is it? Tell me." Qian Huanhan rubbed his hands. "You know the list of beauties, right?" Luli shrugged. "I have heard of it. Is it from the Cabinet of Mystery?" "Yes." Qian Huanhan nodded. "The list of beauties only records those under 100 years old, and they are all unmarried. There are only 100 spots. Lady Dan is on a list of beauties, but she is at the bottom. But there are more than a dozen who are in the top 50, and one of them is in the top 10. Oh, who is it? What's her background? Luli was intrigued. It was not that he was interested in beauties. It was just that Lady Dan was beautiful and had a high status. It was said that she was talented in forging artifacts. How come her ranking was so low? It was said that one of them was in the top 10. What kind of heaven-shaking beauty would that be? Her name is Dongfang Ning. Qian Huanhan's eyes glowed. I don't know her background. Her background is not on the list of beauties. But she must be from a super force if she is number 8 on the list of beauties. Qian Huanhan continued with excitement. This Dongfang Ning is not only number 8 on the list of beauties, but she is also in the top 30,000 on the list of beauties. She is very strong, but she is only in her 20s. Because she was going to participate in the Battle of 10,000 Craftsmen, the Battle of 10,000 Craftsmen was especially lively. Countless geniuses from the divine world had come. Over half of the young masters on the list of talents are here, and the powerful warriors on the list of beauties are here. This is the most lively competition in the past 10,000 years. She is in her 20s, and she is ranked in the top 30,000 on the list of beauties. Luli was surprised. He did not care about Dongfang Ning's ranking on the list of beauties, but he was shocked that she could be among the top 30,000 in the list of beauties at the age of 20. Emperor of Heaven Reverse was only in the top 70,000 on the list of beauties, and Yin Tiangang was 80,000. Lu Shi and Holy Princess were top disciples of the 72 sects, but they were ranked hundreds of thousands. This Dongfang Ning had become a mighty warrior in the divinity at the age of 20, and she was about to become a super mighty warrior? How amazing was this? Her background must be more powerful than the 72 sects. Could it be the top young mistress of the 4 super forces? Apart from this, Luli couldn't think of any other force that could produce such a talented warrior. His abilities were incredible. What made Luli even more curious was Dongfang Ning was so powerful and had such a powerful background, but he was only ranked number 8 on the beauty list. How powerful would the other beauties be? How scary would the background be? It seemed like the divine world was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. There must be many hidden and mysterious forces. Perhaps the 72 divine sects were nothing in the divine world. Luli was suddenly interested. He took the initiative to ask, "Do you have the beauty list? I want to see the top 10 beauties." Hee, I thought Brotherly didn't like women. Qian Huanhan smiled wretchedly and said, "I can recite the top 10. The first one is called Mu Zishi. Her background is unknown and all her information is confidential. The second is Pei Yi. Her information is also confidential. The third is Yin Xingxi. Her information is still confidential." What did you say? Lu Li's eyes widened when he heard this. He asked in a deep voice, "What's the name of number 3? Yin Xingxi. What is it?" Qian Huanhan asked in surprise. When Qian Huanhan wrote down the name, Luli was filled with disbelief. The name of Yin Xingxi on the beauty list was the same as that of the blind lady he knew. "Do you have a portrait of Yin Xingxi? Any information will do," Luli asked in a hurry. Unfortunately, Qian Huanhan shook his head. He told Luli that the Cabinet of Mystery had hidden all information about Yin Xingxi. There was no information about her. Is it a coincidence? Luli frowned. Yin Xingxi was beautiful, but she was the blind lady, which would make her lose points. What was more, Yin Xingxi was not strong. Even if she came to the divinity, she should be an average immortal. Right? Luli remembered something and asked, "Is Yin Xingxi on the list of divinities?" "Of course," Qian Huanhan said with certainty. "Those who can be on the beauty list must be on the list of divinities. The beauty list takes into account all kinds of situations. I think Yin Xingxi is ranked around 30,000 on the list of beauty, similar to Dongfang Ning. She is number 3 on the beauty list. I think she has a more powerful background. Then it must be someone with the same name." Luli nodded. The last time he saw Yin Xingxi, she was only at the Earth Immortal Realm. How many years had passed? Even if the crippled Zen master was from the divinity and brought Yin Qingxi to the divinity to be trained, it would be impressive if she could become an immortal on the list. It was impossible for her to become a mighty warrior in the divinity so soon. There was one more thing. Yin Qingxi on the beauty list must have a powerful background. If so, how could she have grown up in the Central Imperial Universe? Yin Qingxi was adopted by the crippled Zen master when she was born. She grew up in the Zen Valley. Go on. Who else is on the beauty list? Luli put the matter of Yin Qingxi aside. The divinity was a vast place. It was almost impossible to meet them. Qian Huanhan continued after a pause. Number 4 on the beauty list, Xiao Yufei. Luli had never heard of any of the other names, and he was not interested. When Qian Huanhan named the top 10, Luli had an idea. He asked, Qian Huanhan, have you heard of the name Lu Ling? On the list of divinities, beauty list, and talent list? Have you seen this name? Lu Ling? Qian Huanhan blinked. Then his eyes glowed. Brother Li, you know Lu Ling? She is the number 2 on the list of talents. What? Luli was just asking. He did not know that Lu Ling's name was on the list. He was excited. He grabbed Qian Huanhan and asked, do you have detailed information about Lu Ling? Let me see. No. Qian Huanhan shook his head. Lu Ling's information is confidential. We don't even know her gender. The only thing I know is that she is ranked over 10,000 on the list of divinities and is about to become a super mighty warrior in the divinity. Over 10,000? Another person with the same name? Luli was confused. In the past, Lu Ling was not particularly strong, and it had not been long since she went missing. How could she be ranked over 10,000 on the list of divinities? Also, according to Lu Li's speculation, Lu Ling should have been taken back to her family. In that case, she would no longer be called Lu Ling. She would have changed her name. In other words, this Lu Ling was not his sister. Right? Qian Huanhan remembered something and said, I think Lu Ling is going to the competition of craftsmen. I heard from some disciples that you know someone called Lu Ling. Are you sure? Lu Li's eyes glowed. If Lu Ling was going, then whether she was his sister or not, he should go. I will go and find out. Qian Huanhan left quickly. An hour later, he came back and said with certainty, Lu Yun said that Lu Ling will be there. Half of the top 10 on the list will be there. It will be a gathering of talents. Then let's go as well. Chapter 13:11. The Tournament of Craftsmen was famous in the divinity. It was a grand gathering for craftsmen. Every time, many talented craftsmen would be discovered. There were many craftsmen in the divinity. Most of them were in craftsmen's sect or chamber of relics that specialized in forging artifacts. But there were some craftsmen from other forces as well. Some craftsmen who were unwilling to join a sect or wanted to study on their own would go to the Tournament of Craftsmen. The tournament could make many young craftsmen stand out and become famous. In this way, many forces would secretly recruit these craftsmen. The Tournament of Craftsmen was not just a tournament. It was also a trade contest of materials, and older generation craftsmen could communicate with each other. The Tournament of Craftsmen was supposed to be a grand gathering for craftsmen. This time, Dongfang Ning and many other beauties on the list were here, which attracted many young masters from famous families. Then, it triggered a chain reaction. Many people went to get close to those young masters. More and more young people were attracted. The Tournament of Craftsmen became a grand gathering for young talents. The divinity was a vast place. If it were not for certain reasons, it would be hard for those talented disciples to gather together. The Tournament of Craftsmen was one of the reasons. Those talented disciples would take this opportunity to make friends, to show off, or to chase after beauties. The Tournament of Craftsmen had attracted more and more attention. Qian Huanhan went to look for Elder Gu. The latter did not hesitate and agreed readily. Qian Huanhan was confused. Why was Patriarch Gu so easy to talk to? He did not know that it was because of Lu Li. Patriarch Gu rarely turned down Lu Li's requests. Patriarch Gu had been to the Tournament of Craftsmen many times. It was indeed a grand gathering for craftsmen. Patriarch Gu believed it was good for Lu Li and the others to broaden their horizons. After all, there would be no danger in the city of craftsmen, which was the base camp of craftsmen's sect. The Chamber of Relics was quite lively recently, because many disciples wanted to go to the city of craftsmen. Even if they did not have the chance to perform, it would be good for them to broaden their horizons. The number of participants was limited. The city of craftsmen was at the center of the divinity. To go there, one must go through the Office of Space-Time. Teleportation in the Office of Space-Time was costly. No matter how rich the Chamber of Relics was, they could not afford to bring too many disciples. Soon the list came out. This time, only 10 people from the Chamber of Relics would go. Long Shue Sha, the most powerful warrior of the Chamber of Relics, would lead the team in person. Lady Dan, Long Yinhai, and Long Wentian were all qualified to go, even if Jiang Lianxue were not locked up. What upset many disciples of the Chamber of Relics was that Qian Huanhan and Lu Li had gone as well. Qian Huanhan was the core disciple of Patriarch Gu. It was normal that he was qualified to go. Who was Lu Li? How could he go? Last time the matter was so big, but the sentence was so light. How could an ordinary disciple like him be qualified to participate in the 10,000 Craftsman tournament? Some of the core disciples were dissatisfied and went to find the elders, but they were all rejected. The elders only said a few words, and those disciples all quieted down. This name list was decided by the Pavilion Master, and those who disagreed could go and argue with the Pavilion Master. The Pavilion Master's words had always carried enormous weight. Since the name list had been decided, no one could change it. Many disciples could only sulk in secret and curse Lu Li for taking away their spots. Lady Dan was not convinced as well. It was fine for the others to go, but Lu Li had to go as well. This upset her. Seeing Lu Li reminded her of Jiang Lianxue, who was still locked up. She clenched her teeth in hatred. She tried to reason with the Pavilion Master, but the Pavilion Master didn't explain anything. Instead, he asked her to let go of her grudge and treat Lu Li better. Lu Li paid no attention to the uproar outside. He continued to read in his room. Qian Huanhan had been staying in the Hall of Artifact Forging all day, trying to be more proficient in forging artifacts. If there was a chance, he would like to show off his skills at the 10,000 Craftsman tournament. Half a month later, Lu Li and Qian Huanhan were both called out by Patriarch Gu. There were only 5 or 6 days until the 10,000 Craftsman tournament. It was time to set off. Lu Li and Qian Huanhan took a bath. Qian Huanhan put on the white robe of a core disciple. His hair was combed neatly. He looked handsome and elegant. Lu Li only had on a cyan robe. The only eye-catching thing about him was his white hair. Other than that, he looked just like an average disciple. Let's go. Elder Gu glanced at the two of them and walked out coldly. When he reached the small square, Long Shue Sha, Long Yinhai, and Long Wentian happened to walk out with a few elders and Miss Dan. Lu Li and Qian Huanhan bowed at once. When Lu Li bowed to Lady Dan, she snorted and turned her face away. She did not show any respect. Long Yinhai and Long Wentian were shrewd enough to greet Qian Huanhan and Lu Li as if nothing had happened. Let's go. Apparently, Long Shue Sha paid no attention to Lu Li. He stepped into the teleportation formation first. Amidst the passionate gazes of many disciples, the 10 of them were teleported away. They were teleported to a nearby city, the Sunset City. There was a branch of the Space-Time Office here. To go to the Divinity Craftsman City, they must go through the Space-Time Office. Otherwise, it would take them more than a decade to teleport from city to city. Lady Dan and the others seemed to be frequent visitors to the Sunset City. They followed them in silence. Lu Li threw a few glances and then turned to Qian Huanhan. Qian Huanhan did not look around either. It seemed that he did not care about the Sunset City at all. When they walked into the Space-Time Office, Qian Huanhan did not pay much attention as well, which made Lu Li suspicious. It seemed that Qian Huanhan was not as simple as he appeared to be. He must have some background. A patriarch went to talk to the Space-Time Office. In a moment, a chief steward of the Space-Time Office led them to a huge altar. The altar had a radius of more than 1,000 feet. Lu Li had mastered inhibition formations recently. He used psychic power to check the patterns at the bottom of the altar. Still, He felt dizzy. Please bear with it. This time, the teleportation is a bit far. Those with weak souls will find it hard to adapt. But don't worry. The space-time office will never have a problem. You will not be harmed. The chief steward looked at Lu Li, Qian Huanhan, Long Yin Hai, and the others. Dragon Blood Fiend and Patriarch Gu were powerful souls and would be fine. But Lu Li and the other souls were too weak. They would feel uncomfortable. Lady Dan and the others seemed to be aware of this. They nodded emotionlessly. Lu Li took a soul-related pellet and nodded to the chief steward. Activate the teleportation formation. Seeing that everyone was ready, the chief steward nodded to the 4 old warriors behind him. The 4 of them poured out Xian energy to the statues on the 4 sides of the altar. Soon, the patterns at the bottom of the altar lit up. Streaks of lightning danced around the altar. Lu Li and the others could see nothing but white light. They disappeared into the altar. Buzzing above the space-time office, a ray of white light rose up to the sky and lingered for a long time. Okay, the fish has taken a bait. In a castle in the Sunset City, an old man in a black robe looked at the column of light and nodded. He said to someone behind him, "Send a message to Patriarch Ling, tell him that Lu Li is at the City of Divinity. Let him carry out the plan." Chapter 13:12. This was the most uncomfortable teleportation Lu Li had ever experienced. He felt his soul was being torn apart. His stomach was churning. Every pore on his body was uncomfortable. He did not know how long he had been teleporting. It might have been a day or 2 at most, but he felt he had been teleporting for years. Every second and every minute was torturous. Bang! Finally, he felt he had landed. His legs were weak. He dropped to his knees and began to vomit. His face was twisted. He was in great pain. Long Yin Hai, Lady Dan, Qian Huanhan, and the others felt sick as well. Their faces were ghastly pale. That being said, all of them managed to stand on their feet. They did not drop to their knees or throw up like Lu Li. "Lu Li, are you okay?" Qian Huanhan recovered after a while. He went over to help Lu Li. Patriarch Gu was worried, but he could not show it. Lady Dan sneered at Lu Li, seeing how embarrassed he was. Long Yin Hai and Long Wentian did not show it, but there was a hint of mockery in their eyes. Long Xuesha stood there emotionlessly, waiting for Lu Li to recover. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Lu Li stopped vomiting. After the time for another incense stick to burn, Lu Li finally recovered a bit. He was still pale. He staggered to his feet, cupped his fists, and said, "Guys, I'm almost done. Sorry for wasting your time. Let's go." Long Xuesha waved his hand and led the others forward. Lu Li finally had the time to observe the surroundings. They were at the foot of a huge mountain, and they were walking toward it. The mountain was shrouded in mist. Many sceneries could be vaguely seen. Lu Li could faintly see the buildings on the mountainside and the peak. Qian Huanhan had never been to the City of Divinity. He asked Patriarch Gu with curiosity, "Master, is the City of Divinity at the peak?" "Yes." Patriarch Gu answered with a straight face. "The City of Divinity is at the peak, but there is a fort below the city. Later, you'll have to stay at the fort. Only those who pass the preliminary test can enter the City of Divinity." Test. Qian Huanhan and Lu Li were shocked. Qian Huanhan asked, "Master, what test?" "Forging artifacts, of course." Long Yin Hai explained on behalf of Patriarch Gu. "The City of Divinity is a holy land for forging artifacts. Only warriors on the list or artifact craftsmen are qualified to come here." Blacksmith. Lu Li was getting more and more upset. He had never forged a relic before, so he could not become a craftsman. Did that mean he could not go to the City of Divinity? Then how could he meet that Lu Ling and make sure she was his sister? "Don't worry." Patriarch Gu's voice suddenly came to Lu Li's mind. "You can be Qian Huanhan's servant and assist him in forging artifacts. Qian Huanhan can refine divine artifacts. You can follow Qian Huanhan into the craftsman's sect." Lu Li was slightly relieved. Long Yin Hai continued, "Actually, there's not much point in entering the City of Gods. The real tournament is in the inner city. It is more difficult to enter the inner city. Lady Dan smiled proudly and said, "You can stay in the outer city if you can't. I can represent the artifact pavilion." Elder Gu glanced at the crowd and said, "It's enough for all of you to do your best. You are here to see the world, so don't cause trouble in the city. Otherwise, we won't be able to protect you." As they spoke, they arrived at the foot of the mountain. There was a huge, winding mountain road here that was completely made of white jade. At the bottom of the mountain road, there were groups of soldiers in red armor guarding it. "Lord Long, Lord Gu, greetings." A middle-aged man with strong energy among the warriors greeted Long Shuasha and Patriarch Gu from the distance. Clearly, he was an old acquaintance. "Commander Feng." Long Shuasha forced a smile and exchanged some pleasantries. Patriarch Gu and the other patriarchs followed him. That Commander Feng exchanged some pleasantries. Then, he turned to Lady Dan and said with a smile, "I haven't seen you for years. Ruiden, you're more beautiful. Yinhai is nice as well." "Thank you, Grandpa Feng." Lady Dan knew Commander Feng. Long Yinhai came and bowed as well. Lu Li, Qian Huanhan, and the others bowed. Long Shuesha exchanged some pleasantries again. Commander Feng asked one of his men to lead them up the mountain. "Pay attention to the inhibition formations on this path." Patriarch Gu's voice came to Lu Li's mind again. "Do not underestimate this path. When the inhibition formations are activated, not even the super mighty warriors in the divinity can go up. This path is called the path of supernatural beings. Not even supernatural beings can go up." Luli was taken aback. He used psychic power to check. Sure enough, the road was filled with formations and lines. The inhibition formations were complicated and abstruse. On both sides of the path were thick clouds. Luli could not see clearly. He believed that the entire mountain was filled with inhibition formations. Going around at random could lead to a tragic end. Guided by the warriors of the craftsman's sect, they climbed up the mountain in peace. Luli had been trying to sense the inhibition formations. Before he knew it, he had arrived at a city. The mountain was halfway up the mountain. Looking up into the sky, Luli could vaguely see a corner of a larger city. When they entered the city, they found it lively. People were coming and going. Powerful warriors could be seen everywhere. "Brotherly, take them with you. We will go to the city of craftsmen's sect now." Inside the city, Long Shuasha threw a glance to Lady Dan and the others. Then, he said solemnly, "Listen up. Violence is strictly forbidden in the city. Listen to Patriarch Li. Anyone who causes trouble will be grounded for 1,000 years." Patriarch Gu threw a glance to Qian Huanhan and Lu Li and said, "Do not cause trouble. If you do, you will die in vain. Do you understand?" With that said, Patriarch Gu and the others left first. They must have important matters to attend to. They were not just here to accompany Lady Dan and the others. One patriarch stayed with Lady Dan, Long Yinhai, Lu Li, and the others. He asked, "Do you want to have some fun in the city, or go directly to the City of Craftsmen's sect?" "Of course, to the City of Craftsmen's sect. What can we do in a small city like this?" Lady Dan said with pride, "I am here to participate in the tournament. It is a waste of time to stay here." Long Yinhai and the others echoed. Luli could not wait to go to the City of Craftsmen. Naturally, he would not hang around here. Seeing that everyone agreed, Patriarch Li led them to a castle without any hesitation. This castle was a place to test whether one was a craftsman or not. If one was not a warrior on the list, then one must prove that one was a craftsman before he could enter the City of Craftsmen. Along the way, Luli had been looking around, hoping that he would be lucky enough to run into that Lu Ling. If she were really his sister, then he wouldn't have to go to the City of Craftsmen. Unfortunately, there were many people in the city and many young masters and young ladies in fancy clothes. Yet, he didn't see the one he was looking forward to. Inside the castle, that patriarch talked to the chief steward and then came back and said to Lu Li and the others, "Go to a hall of forging artifacts. If you can make a relic in 2 hours, you will pass the test. Then, you can go to the City of Craftsmen." Lu Li knew that it would be difficult for him to make a relic. 2 hours was not enough. Lu Li thought about it and said, Patriarchally, can I be Brother Qian Huanhan's servant? I can assist senior brother in refining. Servant? Lady Dan sneered. You only deserve to be a servant. How about you kowtow to me 3 times, and I will take you in as my servant. I will take you to the inner city to participate in the tournament of craftsmen. You? Lu Li raised his eyebrows. You are not qualified. You are not as good as Brother Qian Huanhan. Lady Dan was enraged. She glared at Lu Li. Patriarchally threw her a glance. She suppressed her anger and said, Okay. Your Brother Qian Huanhan is good. Let's meet at the tournament of craftsmen. Whoever cannot go to the inner city must kowtow to me. How about that? Chapter 13:13. Patriarch Li went to negotiate again. It was normal for some artificers to bring servants with them. Soon, Lu Li and Qian Huanhan were sent to a hall of forging artifacts. Brotherly, what are you doing? Don't involve me in your quarrel with Lady Dan. Qian Huanhan said with a frown as soon as they entered the hall of forging artifacts. Qian Huanhan knew what he was capable of. He could only make average relics. He would not be able to enter the inner city. Would he have to kowtow to Lady Dan every time? Don't worry, I have some. I can help you enter the inner city of Divine Craftsman City. Lu Li patted Qian Huanhan's shoulder. He must enter the inner city and meet that Lu Ling. He could not rely on himself because he did not know how to seal artifact spirits and stabilize artifacts. Of course, Qian Huanhan would not be able to do it alone. That being said, if Lu Li and Qian Huanhan worked together, the chances of success would be higher, because Lu Li was skilled in inhibition formations. He believed that the formations he carved could make Qian Huanhan's relics outstanding. In this way, it would be more likely for them to enter the inner city. Somehow, Qian Huanhan felt relieved looking into Lu Li's confident eyes. He said nothing else. He turned on the stove and began to forge artifacts. Lu Li pretended to help him. Qian Huanhan's skills had improved. He was more experienced. He used some simple materials in the hall to make a saber. It took him less than an hour to finish the embryo of such a simple relic. Then came the carving of formations. Lu Li did not help him. If Qian Huanhan could not even make a simple relic, then he would be useless. The carving of formations was successful. Qian Huanhan took out an artifact spirit bead and released a low-level artifact spirit. Qian Huanhan sealed the artifact spirit in a special way. Then came the stabilization. Lu Li observed Qian Huanhan's methods carefully. Qian Huanhan must have made many relics recently. Lu Li was relieved. It's done. About 2 hours later, Qian Huanhan's eyes glowed. Then, the patterns on the relic glowed faintly. Lu Li used psychic power to check and nodded. The relic seemed to be low level, but it was a relic nonetheless. They had passed the test. When Lu Li and Qian Huanhan left, Lady Dan and the others were already waiting outside. Qian Huanhan handed over the divine artifact, and it was accepted. He gave Qian Huanhan a red jade talisman and Lu Li a light red jade talisman. Let's go. Elderly waved his hand, and everyone walked out of the castle towards a teleportation portal. If he wanted to go to the Divine Craftsman City, he could only use the transmission array. It was impossible to fly up or walk up. Arriving at the teleportation formation, Elderly checked everyone's identity jade tokens and took out one. Everyone entered the teleportation array, and with a flash of white light, everyone arrived at a super large plaza. This statue. As soon as Lu Li came out, he was attracted by a huge statue in the plaza. It was a statue of an old man with an old-fashioned face. The statue was very lifelike. If it were not for the fact that there was no sign of life, Lu Li would have thought it was a giant. This is the statue of the first sect leader of the Craftsman sect, known as the Craftsman Ancestral God. Seeing that Lu Li and Qian Huanhan were staring at the statue, Patriarchally explained. Then, Patriarchally warned, "Do not be rude to the statue, or else you will be killed." Lu Li and Qian Huanhan bowed to the statue with respect. Master craftsmen must be respected. Patriarchally nodded and asked, "Do you want to hang around in the city, or go to the inner city?" Don't force yourself. You are young. When you're better at forging artifacts, you can go to the competition. Among them, only Lady Dan was good at forging artifacts. She had reached the level of a master craftsman. Long Yinhai and the others were not good enough. As for Lu Li and Qian Huanhan, Patriarchally was satisfied that they could make relics since they had just started. There was a word fight in the competition of craftsmen. Since there were no talented ones in this generation, the Chamber of Relics did not care. In a few decades, when Lady Dan grew up and became a master craftsman, the Chamber of Relics would pay more attention to her. Therefore, this time, Patriarchally was just bringing Lady Dan, Lu Li, and the others to see the world. Otherwise, Patriarch Dragonblood, Patriarch Gu, and the others would have followed them. Patriarchally was ordered to lead the group. Naturally, he did not want to waste too much time. He would rather Lu Li and the others stay in the outer city. Lady Dan would not give up the chance to have a competition. She frowned. I want to go to the inner city. The outer city is boring. The inner city is the real fun. I want to take the test. Long Yinhai and the others naturally wanted to go to the inner city. Whether or not they could go in was another matter. At the very least, they had to try. The inner city must be crowded with famous people. All kinds of young ladies would be dazzled. Luli did not want to stay in the outer city. Though the outer city seemed to be crowded and there were many interesting places, Luli was not in the mood to go there. They all decided to go to the inner city. Patriarchally had no choice but to lead them to a huge castle. What? After a few steps, Long Yinhai suddenly stopped. His eyes lit up as he said, "She's here." "Who is it?" Lady Dan glanced over. Soon she grinned. "It is Sister Jingya and that jerk Lu Shi." Luli heard two familiar names. He glanced over and saw two familiar faces. It was Holy Princess Lu Shi, another young lady, and a young master. "What? Brother Hai, Holy Princess is coming over." Long Wentian was excited. Holy Princess was on the list of most beautiful women. Because of her unique, profound meaning of life, she ranked 15th on the list. She was the goddess of many men's dreams. Last time, Long Yinhai went to talk to Holy Princess, but she was indifferent. Unexpectedly, this time, she came over. Sister Jingyao must be here for me." Lady Dan raised her head with pride, but she turned to Lu Shi. In the southern divinity, Lu Shi was famous for being a playboy. He was good at hooking up with other men's wives and never flirted with young ladies or young ladies. That being said, the more attractive Lu Shi was to young ladies, the more interested Lady Dan was in him. "Ha ha ha!" Lu Shi laughed from the distance. His laughter was filled with kindness. Even Lady Dan was fascinated by his unrestrained manner. Holy Princess smiled before she said anything. She was cold and detached. Deep in her bones, she would keep others at a distance. For the first time, she was smiling. Long Yinhai and Long Wentian could not believe their eyes. Lu Shi and Holy Princess walked over in strides. Long Yinhai hurried to greet them. Lady Dan walked over shyly. She blushed and stared at Lu Shi. "Holy Princess, here we meet again." Long Yinhai cupped his fists. Lady Dan smiled sweetly as well. "Sister Jingya, young Master Lu." Before they could finish their conversation, they saw Holy Princess and Lu Shi walking past them toward Qian Huanhan and Lu Li. The two and Long Wentian were taken aback. They looked back in surprise. Lu Shi hugged Lu Li tightly and patted his back affectionately. "You punk, I knew you would not die." Holy Princess bowed and said with a smile, "Young Master Lu, nice to see you again." Long Yinhai, Lady Dan, and Long Wentian exchanged a look. They were all dumbfounded. Chapter 13-14. Disciples of Chamber of Relics had always been popular, especially since Lady Dan was the granddaughter of the chief of Chamber of Relics. In Southern Divinity, most forces would show respect to her. Long Yunhai's status was unique as well. Long Xuesha was the most powerful warrior in Chamber of Relics and a master craftsman. His status in Chamber of Relics was second only to the chief of Chamber of Relics. Today, Holy Princess and Lu Shi were humiliated in public. Holy Princess and Lu Shi had ignored them and greeted Lu Li directly. It just so happened that Lady Dan said confidently that Lu Shi and Holy Princess were here for her. Lady Dan's face was burning with shame and anger. Not only did she hate Lu Li to the core, but she also had some doubts. What had Lu Li done to deserve such preferential treatment from Lu Shi and Holy Princess? Lu Shi was an oddity at Southern Divinity. His grandpa, Lu Tianxing, was a famous lunatic. Nobody dared to mess with Lu Shi. Therefore, Lu Shi had always been a lone wolf. As for Holy Princess, she was the only holy princess of the Palace of Snow Mountain and the next master of the Palace of Snow Mountain. Her understanding of the fundamental principle of life was rare and unique. It was said that the Hall of Life and Death valued her highly. How could two people with special identities treat Lu Li with special respect? Who was Lu Li? He was a disciple at the bottom of the Chamber of Relics. He had no abilities and could only be at the lowest level in forging artifacts. Why did Lu Shi hug him so affectionately? Why did he let Holy Princess smile for him? Lady Dan and Long Yunhai did not understand. Neither did the other young master and young lady with Lu Shi and Holy Princess. Holy Princess rarely smiled. If they were not real friends, it would be hard for her to talk to them, let alone smile. Lu Li was troubled. He had been trying to keep a low profile. Unexpectedly, he ran into Lu Shi and Holy Princess. How could he survive in Chamber of Relics after they gave him such a blow? If the Palace of Evil Spirit noticed him, how could he kill Cho Qianjun? But what was done. Lu Li had no other choice. He hugged Lu Shi and whispered, "I don't want to stand out. Cover for me." After parting ways with Lu Shi, Lu Li cupped his fist to Holy Princess and said, "Nice to meet you, Holy Princess." Lu Li's salute and his distant tone surprised Holy Princess. Lu Shi winked at her. The clever Holy Princess understood at once. She nodded without saying anything else. Lu Shi turned around and said to Lady Dan with a smile, "Lady Dan, long time no see. You have become more beautiful. Brother Yunhai, nice to meet you." "Ha! Brother Lu met us once, and we had a good chat. I didn't expect you to join the Chamber of Relics." Holy Maiden Xuan nodded. "Greetings, little sister Rudin. Greetings, young master Yunhai Wentian." Pellet Realm and Long Yunhai looked at Lu Li with suspicion, but said nothing. Lady Dan nodded to Lu Shi coldly and then bowed to Holy Princess before she asked, "Sister Jingya, do you know Lu Li?" "Yes." "Holy girl," Shui admitted it openly. She thought for a while and said, "Young Master Lu helped me and young Master Lu once. We owe him a favor." "He helped you? Can he help you?" Long Wentian looked at Lu Li in surprise. To him, Lu Li was a puny ant at the bottom, while Holy Princess and Lu Shi were the dragons and phoenixes in the sky. An ant could actually help a true dragon and a phoenix? This was the biggest joke in the world. Long Wentian's expression upset Holy Princess and Lu Shi. Long Wentian's questioning of Lu Li was a slap to their faces. Lu Shi sneered. "Brother Lu cannot help us." Long Wentian, "Do you think he can?" "Ha! Ha!" With that said, Lu Shi did not look at Lady Dan, Long Yunhai, and Long Wentian. He cupped his fists to Lu Li and patriarchally. Holy Princess nodded to him as well. They turned around and left. "Brotherly, you are impressive." Qian Huanhan praised Lu Li for what he had just witnessed. Lu Li shrugged, but did not say anything. He ignored the angry and suspicious looks from Long Wentian, Lady Dan, and Long Yunhai. "Let's go." Elderly looked on coldly from the side and didn't say anything. Everyone continued forward and entered a castle. The castle was large and crowded. Many warriors in craftsmen's robes could be seen. They must be trying to enter the inner city. Patriarch Li went to negotiate while the others waited in silence. From time to time, people would come over to greet them. Most of them were trying to get close to Lady Dan. A small number of them were talking to Long Yunhai and Long Wentian. Naturally, nobody came to Qian Huanhan and Lu Li. That being said, those were not important people. They were not as prestigious as Holy Princess and Lu Shi. After the time for several incense sticks to burn, Patriarch Li came back. He glanced at them and said, "It is done. Later, you can go and forge artifacts. You can only use the materials in the hall and hand in the relics after you make them. Craftsman's sect will have a steward to evaluate you. You can enter the inner city if you pass the evaluation." Pass. Long Yinhai was confused. What I have to do to pass? There is no standard. Patriarch Li shook his head. Of course, if you can make a supreme relic, you will pass. If you can make a high-quality relic or a high-difficulty one, you will pass as well. In any case, do your best to refine it. If you can refine a good divine artifact, it definitely won't be buried. This time, you only have 4 hours. Be careful. Lu Li put on a solemn expression. It seemed that this was going to be a difficult task. A high-quality relic. Qian Huanhan would not be able to make one in a few years. Lady Dan walked forward with pride. Long Yinhai and Long Wentian followed her, gritting their teeth. Qian Huanhan looked at Lu Li with uneasiness. Lu Li patted his shoulder and walked forward with the others. They were led to a small hall. Lu Li checked to make sure that no one was spying on them. He said with a smile, "Don't feel pressured. Just do your best." Qian Huanhan nodded. He turned on the stove and began to work. This time, he wanted to make a bow. This was more difficult, but more spectacular. No, Lu Li shook his head and said, "Just a simple sword or saber. You will fail easily when making a bow. Just pick something you are good at." Lu Li could tell what Qian Huanhan was thinking. He stopped him in time. Qian Huanhan could not pass the test given his abilities. If he failed, he would not have another chance if he did not have enough time. All right, Qian Huanhan trusted Lu Li. He chose to make a sword. This time, he was meticulous. It took him an hour to make a perfect prototype. This is a good prototype. When the prototype was ready, Lu Li took it over and nodded. "You have improved a lot." Qian Huanhan was not delighted. Instead, he paced up and down in the room with a frown. What formation should I put? Should he engrave the spirit gathering, spirit vibrating, and spirit explosion arrays? However, if he were to inscribe all 3 of these spirit designs, it would be very easy to fail. If I fail, the perfection of the prototype will be affected. I will have to make a new one, and I may not have enough time. Why don't I carve spirit gathering and spirit storage spirit formations? But that won't be very eye-catching. What a headache. What kind of spirit formation should I carve? Qian Huanhan paced up and down in the room, talking to himself. He had mastered many formations, but it was difficult to put several at the same time. If he only put some simple formations, he would not be able to pass the test and enter the inner city. What? A moment later, Qian Huanhan noticed that the prototype in Lu Li's hand was glowing. Qian Huanhan used psychic power to check. What he saw shocked him, as if he had seen a ghost. Because Chapter 13:15. Qian Huanhan thought he had made a mistake. He walked over and took the prototype from Lu Li's hand. He checked it carefully. He was even more shocked. "Brother Li, did you really do this?" he asked in disbelief. Lu Li smiled. As a matter of fact, he did not want to be too high profile. Otherwise, he could have put 6 or 7 inhibition formations in. If Blood Fairy could do it, she could change the inhibition formations and make the relic more spectacular. Lu Li waved his hand. "I have made some progress in inhibition formations. I don't know how to seal artifact spirits and stabilize the artifact. It is up to you whether we can go to the inner city or not." "You have made some progress?" Qian Huanhan pouted. "You are a freak. How long have we been in the Chamber of Relics? I don't think even Lady Dan can put so many inhibition formations in. You have reached the level of a divine craftsman. All right, stop flattering me." Lu Li said solemnly, "You must remember that you are the one who put the inhibition formations, and you are the one who made the relic. I am just your servant. If others find out, I will be in big trouble. I cannot be exposed. Do you understand?" Qian Huanhan frowned. Since Lu Li was being serious, Qian Huanhan did not ask further. He nodded in excitement. He took a few deep breaths and began the next 2 steps. There was a bead of artifact spirit with some artifact spirits in it. Qian Huanhan first checked the inhibition formations in the prototype and then chose the most suitable artifact spirit to seal in. Usually, artifact spirits were the souls of wild beasts. The moment the beasts were killed, the bead of artifact spirit would be used to collect them. Or there were some strange spirits, demons, and other soul bodies in the world. Regular artifact spirits were not precious, but they were still worth a lot of divine sources. Therefore, forging artifacts was costly. To become a master craftsman, an artifact craftsman must consume many materials and artifact spirits. Often, the artifact craftsman would end up with useless products. Even if a master craftsman joined a small force, the artifact craftsman would not be able to afford to hire them. Perfect, after sealing the artifact spirit, Qian Huanhan took a closer look. He was even more excited. He was not in a hurry to proceed to the last step. He paced up and down for the time, for one incense stick to burn before he started. There was nothing Lu Li could do to help with the stabilizer, so he could only watch from the side. He wasn't particularly worried. It was still early. Even if he failed, he would still have another chance. Qian Huanhan threw the tool embryo into the cauldron and began the last step of fixing the tool. He poured out divine energy skillfully. Lu Li nodded to himself. Qian Huanhan was experienced and his breaths were steady. If he failed, then it would be a matter of bad luck. After the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, the cauldron gradually calmed down. Qian Huanhan patted the cauldron, and a divine sword flew out. It was covered with divine patterns and was shining brightly. Obviously, it was done. Whoosh! Qian Huanhan grabbed the relic and checked it carefully. He was delighted. He turned to Lu Li and grinned. Brother Li, this is perfect. This relic can be compared to a high-grade relic. All right. Lu Li took over the relic and nodded with satisfaction. Given Qian Huanhan's abilities, he had done well this time. It would not be difficult for him to enter the inner city. Spirit gathering, vibrating, explosive spirit, fortitude, and speed. The 5 formations are in harmony. If it were not for the fact that I am not good enough, this relic could be a high-grade relic. Qian Huanhan exclaimed as he took over the sword. Then, he gave Lu Li a thumbs up. Brother Li, you are a genius in forging artifacts. I think you will be the next relic master. Lu Li shook his head and said, Han, you cannot say that I am the one who built the formations. Remember this, or you will get me into trouble. Do you understand? Why? Qian Huanhan was confused. Lu Li did not explain. He only told Qian Huanhan to remember. Qian Huanhan touched his head and did some tests to make sure that the sword was stable. Then, he left with Lu Li. There was a disciple of the craftsman's sect outside. Qian Huanhan handed over the relic. The disciple told them to wait while he went into an inner hall by himself. He handed over the relic to 2 deacons of the craftsman's sect to check. The first deacon tried to sense the relic. He did not think it was a high-grade relic. By the looks of it, it was only a low-grade relic. Clearly, a low-grade relic was not enough to enter the inner city. He took over the relic and used psychic power to check. His expression changed. Without any hesitation, he poured divine energy into the sword. Buzzing, the sword glowed. The formations on the sword glowed. The artifact spirit was moving around in a frenzy. A suffocating energy came from the sword. Well, Brother Lu, this sword. The other deacon took a look. He was surprised. Brother Lu handed over the sword. Brother Yin, take a look at the formations in the sword. Brother Lu took over the sword and poured divine energy into it. Elder Yin took the long sword and infused his divine power into it. After sensing it for a while, a look of surprise also appeared on his face. He sighed and said, "It's actually a formation technique. I'm afraid even the great divine craftsmen don't know much about this, right?" "Yes." Brother Lu nodded. The creator of this formation is the youngest son of the craftsman ancestor god. Over the past hundreds of thousands of years, fewer and fewer people can learn it. The most outstanding one is Grandmaster Tian Lingzi from 100,000 years ago. I didn't expect that a disciple, someone who could not even forge a high-grade relic, could learn the formation. What a genius! Brother Yan's eyes glowed. He asked the disciple in front of him, "Who made this relic? Who is his teacher?" The disciple looked through the information and reported, "It is a disciple of the Chamber of Relics." "Well, it is Gu Shanha's personal student, Qian Huanhan." "Gu Shanha?" Old Yin and Old Lu looked at each other. Old Yin frowned and murmured doubtfully, "Gu Shanha's forging skills are not bad, but he doesn't walk the path of formations. Did he get the formation school and let his disciple learn it?" "Okay." Brother Lu waved his hand. "Qian Huanhan can go to the inner city now. Arrange for him to fight. Also, tell Patriarch Eagle that Qian Huanhan has learned the formation and he has mastered it perfectly. Tell Patriarch Eagle to pay attention to Qian Huanhan's fights. Tell him that this disciple is worth training." Patriarch Eagle. That disciple was surprised. He bowed and left. At first, he was a bit arrogant to Qian Huanhan and Lu Li. After he left, he calmed down and forced a smile, which confused Qian Huanhan. Buzzing, right at this moment, the door of a nearby room opened. Lady Dan walked out in a hurry with a red longbow in her hand. She shouted as soon as she walked out, "I made it! I made it! My divine bow is perfect! Give it to your steward for inspection." "What are you yelling about?" "Shut up! I will disqualify you if you keep yelling." The disciple of the craftsman's sect threw her a cold glance. Lady Dan's smile froze. The disciple turned around. He cupped his fist to Qian Huanhan and said, "Qian Huanhan, you have passed the test. You can go to the inner city now. Take this token. There will be a disciple outside that will take you to the inner city directly." Lady Dan finally saw that Qian Huanhan and Lu Li were standing behind that disciple. She was shocked. She stared at Qian Huanhan and Lu Li and said, How can you pass the test with your level of forging artifacts?" Qian Huanhan smiled and ignored her. Lu Li was not in the mood either. That disciple, on the other hand, was annoyed by Lady Dan. He sneered and said, "That's it? Wait until you reach his level. He is praised as a genius by Master Yin." Lady Dan blinked. She stared at Qian Huanhan as if she did not know him. A genius in forging artifacts? If Qian Huanhan was a genius, then she would be a genius. "Sister Dan, we will leave now." Chapter 13:16. Qian Huanhan left with Lu Li. Lady Dan's eyes were spitting fire. Still, she could not understand. Qian Huanhan had not been learning to forge artifacts for long. How could he be praised by someone from the craftsman's sect? He was a genius? One had to know that the craftsman's sect represented the pinnacle of blacksmithing in the immortal world. Everyone there was very arrogant and almost never praised anyone. Qian Huanhan and Lu Li walked out. They greeted Patriarch Li and showed their tokens to a disciple. The disciple hurriedly brought the two of them to a side hall. There was a teleportation array in the side hall that could teleport them to the inner city. The disciples of the Mountain Valley sect are quite skilled. Patriarch Li shared the same expression as Lady Dan. As far as he could see, Qian Huanhan and Lu Li had no chance at all. Who would have thought that they would be the first to pass and enter the inner city? Before long, Miss Dan came out. She had passed the test and could enter the inner city. Miss Dan was a rare genius of the Chamber of Relics. It was easy for her to enter the inner city. If it weren't for the fact that he hadn't been learning refining for a long time and that his temperament wasn't steady enough, he would probably be able to shine in this battle. To Elder Li's surprise, both Long Yinhai and Long Wentian failed. Long Yinhai originally had a chance, but his luck was not very good. The divine weapon that he forged had some flaws. Later on, he wanted to reforge it, but did not have enough time. Qian Huanhan and Lu Li have entered the city. When Long Yinhai and Long Wentian heard the news, they felt their cheeks burning. They were core disciples of the Artifact Pavilion, and they had been learning to forge artifacts since they were young. How could they lose to a disciple who had just joined the sect for a year? Elder Li waved his hand and said, "All of you stay at the inn. I will enter the inner city to report to Elder Long and Elder Gu." Looking at Elder Li's back, Long Yinhai and Long Wentian felt dejected. They had been looking forward to this competition, but now they just wanted it to end as soon as possible. Because every time they stood there, the two of them felt like they were being silently humiliated. How lively! Lu Li and Qian Huanhan were teleported to the inner city, which was like a paradise. The scenery here was picturesque, unlike the castles outside. On the contrary, there were flowers and trees everywhere. Flowers were blooming everywhere, and there were even a few man-made rivers flowing quietly. It was very lively inside, with pedestrians walking back and forth. Everyone was immaculately dressed, wearing embroidered robes and jade robes. Their bearing was extraordinary. The two of them were led by the disciple. Qian Huanhan's eyes were wide open. He had seen at least a dozen top-notch beauties along the way. After walking through several roads, the two of them were brought to a beautiful manor. The disciple politely said, "This is the place where the elders of your sect live. You can go in and settle down first. Tomorrow, the 10,000 craftsman competition will officially begin. We'll inform you when the time comes." "Thank you, Senior." Lu Li and Qian Huanhan thanked him and walked into the yard. Several psychic powers came out immediately. Then, Elder Gu appeared at the door. Surprise appeared on his old-fashioned face, but it quickly turned into pride. He nodded and said, "Not bad, Qian Huanhan. You didn't let me down." Long Xuesha and the other two elders walked out and looked at Qian Huanhan in bewilderment. Long Xuesha didn't say anything, but the other two elders exclaimed in admiration, "Not bad. Shanhe, your disciples are top-notch. How long has it been since Qian Huanhan joined the Chamber of Artifacts? You can actually enter the inner city. Congratulations." "Ha, ha." Eldagu stroked the sparse beard on his chin and said disapprovingly, "It's just that this child is a little smart and hard-working. I didn't teach him too much. I just passed on some of my knowledge." Patriarch Gu was trying to show off, but he turned to Lu Li with suspicion. He knew Qian Huanhan's capability very well. There was no way Qian Huanhan could enter the inner city. Then, the problem lay with Lu Li. "Go and have some rest. Don't be arrogant or impatient." Patriarch Gu waved his hand after a glance. "You can wander around at night, but do not make any trouble. Come back and tell us if you need anything. Do you understand?" Qian Huanhan and Lu Li answered at once. They went to a room. Qian Huanhan was excited. He paced up and down in the room. He had been in the limelight today, and he was feeling pleased. "Brother Li, you are impressive." Qian Huanhan activated the inhibition formation. He was about to say something when Lu Li waved him to keep quiet. There were many powerful warriors in the inner city and many masters of inhibition formations. Who could tell if someone was eavesdropping? On the off chance that Long Xuesha was, neither of them could tell. "Here I am." Lu Li sat with his legs crossed and took a deep breath. He no longer cared about the competition of craftsmen. He would not take any actions. After all, the Chamber of Relics did not have high hopes for them. His main purpose in coming here, to find that Lu Ling and see if she was his sister. He sat with his legs crossed and thought for a while, feeling worried. Even though it was an inner city, it was a large one with manors everywhere. Who knew where Lu Ling was staying? Should he go to the craftsman's sect and ask? Even if he did, could he go in? Right, Holy Princess and Lu Shi. Lu Li thought of the two. They were the only ones who could get in touch with Lu Ling. Even if Lady Dan wanted to see Lu Ling, it would not be possible. "I will go and see Lu Shi tonight." Lu Li made up his mind. He chatted with Qian Huanhan for a while, and then sat down to rest. When the night fell and the moon rose, Lu Li and Qian Huanhan set off. There was only one patriarch outside. Neither Long Xuesha nor Patriarch Gu was here. They must be attending to business or attending a banquet. That patriarch said something to Lu Li and Qian Huanhan before they came out. As soon as Qian Huanhan came out, he looked around and glanced at the girls. "Brother Li, where are we going?" Seeing Lu Li walking straight ahead, Qian Huanhan asked in confusion. Then, Qian Huanhan saw many pretty girls sitting in a tavern in the distance. His eyes glowed and he said, "Brother Li, there are so many pretty girls over there. Shall we go and have a drink?" "I have something to do." Lu Li stopped and said, "How about you go and have a drink by yourself? I will come and find you when I am done." "Never mind. I will go with you, Brother Li." Qian Huanhan shook his head and said in frustration, "We have no fame, no status, and no ability. Even if we go there, those pretty girls won't talk to us. All you think about is pretty girls." Lu Li rolled his eyes. He saw a disciple of the craftsman's sect and went over to ask. After learning where Lu Shi was, Lu Li and Qian Huanhan hurried over. At the gate, there were guards. They must be from the pavilion of Misty Drizzle. Lu Li asked the guard to report in. Soon, they heard a hearty laugh. Lu Shi walked out in strides. He put his arm around Lu Li's shoulder and walked inside while saying, "Brother Lu, you are just in time. I am entertaining some young masters and young ladies from famous families. I can introduce you to them. Let me tell you, Lady Luan, number 16 on the list of beautiful ladies, and Lady Yu, number 24, are both here." Wow, Qian Huanhan, who was following Lu Li, was like a hungry wolf seeing a lamb. His eyes glowed. Just now, he was frustrated that he could not get close to those pretty girls. Now he could meet one of the top beauties on the list of beautiful ladies. Chapter 13-17. Qian Huanhan was tempted, but Lu Li was troubled. He was not here to attend some so-called banquet. He could not be too high profile, or else he would lose his chance if the palace of evil spirit noticed him. He had promised Patriarch Gu that he would avenge him, and he had always kept his promise. What was more, Patriarch Gu had been treating Lu Li well, and he treated Lu Li like his own son. Lu Li was touched, and he made up his mind to avenge Patriarch Gu. The young master of the palace of evil spirit and Chou Qianjuan's great-grandpa was a patriarch of the space-time office. It would be difficult for Lu Li to kill Chou Qianjun. If the palace of evil spirit noticed him in advance, Lu Li would lose his chance, just like Patriarch Gu. Therefore, Lu Li must keep a low profile. He refused without hesitation. "Brother Shi, just let Qian Huanhan in. I have something to discuss with you. I will not go to the banquet." "Are you sure?" Lu Shi was surprised. Many people would try their best to approach young masters and young ladies from prestigious families. Why was Lu Li not interested? Was Lu Li from a prestigious family as well? Or was he not into pretty girls? Lu Li nodded with determination. Lu Shi waved to a disciple of the pavilion of Misty Drizzle and asked him to bring Qian Huanhan in, while Lu Shi showed Lu Li to a small pavilion nearby. Inside the pavilion, Lu Shi activated the inhibition formation. He poured Lu Li a cup of tea and said, "What is it? Just say it." Lu Li stood up and cupped his fists. "Brother Shi, I haven't thanked you enough for helping me out last time. I am ashamed that I have to trouble you again." Lu Shi pulled a long face. He glared at Lu Li and said, "If you keep this up, I will see you out." "Ha ha ha," Lu Li grinned. He cut to the chase and asked, "Brother Shi, do you know the talents on the list? Isn't that obvious?" Lu Shi rolled his eyes. "I am still on the list, but I am ashamed to say that I am in the 80s. The Cabinet of Mystery releases a list every 3 years. The Divinity list, the Beauty list, and the Genius list are the most valued." Lu Li was excited. "Do you know Lu Ling, the number 2 on the list?" Lu Ling. Lu Shi was confused. He shook his head and said, "I don't have any information about her. I only know that she is a woman. Furthermore, she wasn't even on the beauty list. Was it because she wasn't beautiful enough, or because she didn't want to be on the beauty list? In any case, this person is very mysterious. Our Misty Rain Pavilion does not have any detailed information on her. Are you sure it's a woman?" Lulu was a bit excited. He had a feeling that this Lu Ling might be his sister. He suddenly stood up and said, "Brother 12, this Lu Ling has come to the City of Divinity. Can you take me to see her? You only need to see him from afar. You don't have to worry about anything else. Please, this is very important to me." "This is a little difficult." Lu Shi thought for a moment with his eyebrows knitted together. He stood up and said, "Sit here. I will go and see if I can meet her. Saintess Shui is inside. I'll ask her if she has any ideas." "All right." Lu Li nodded and watched as Lu Shi left. Then, he paced up and down in the room nervously. If he could meet that Lu Ling and make sure that she was his sister, everything would be worth it. Time moved on. Lu Li was getting more and more impatient. Lu Shi, I have been gone for over 2 hours. Why hadn't he come back? Lu Li's heart was hanging in the air. If there was a way, Lu Shi would have come back by now. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Lu Shi finally hurried in. Lu Li's heart skipped a beat when he saw his expression. As Lu Li had expected, Lu Shi shook his head and said, Lu Ling is here. But the force behind her is powerful. She is living in the manor in the backyard. Holy Princess, and I cannot go there unless my grandpa or master of the Palace of Snow Mountain comes in person. It is a pity that my grandpa and master of Snow Mountain are not here. Lu Li blinked and asked, is there no other way? Is it so hard to meet her? There's a way. Lu Shi said, tomorrow is the competition of craftsmen. If you can make it to the semifinals, you will have a chance to go to the Fort of Divinity. By then, many important people will be there. Maybe that Lu Ling will come. You will have a chance to meet her. Semifinals. Lu Li felt troubled. Both he and Qian Huanhan were not skilled enough. Lu Li had not even made a relic. How could he make it to the semifinals? The competition of craftsmen was the grandest event for craftsmen in the divinity. There must be many powerful warriors there. What was more, he did not want to take part in the competition at all, because he could easily expose something, such as Tian Lingzi's book collection or Bloodvine. Not even the Chamber of Relics could protect him if some important people coveted his book collection. Also, who could guarantee that the big shots in the Chamber of Relics would not be interested in Tian Lingzi's book collection? Lu Li thought about it and asked, is there really no other way? How about I wait outside the city of craftsmen? She has to go back, right? Yes, she has to go back. Lu Shi forced a smile, but you will not be able to meet her. Since she is from a big force, I think she will teleport away from the inner city, alas. Lu Li rubbed his forehead. Is it easy to make it to the semifinals? Yes, Lu Shi patted Lu Li's shoulder. Usually, there will be at least 1,000 participants in the competition, but only 10 of them can make it to the semifinals. That being said, the Craftsman sect will reward you handsomely after you make it to the semifinals. You will be sought after by many forces. You will be famous in the divinity. Brother Lu, don't push yourself. Just try your best. You will have more chances to meet Lu Ling in the future. I understand. Lu Li made up his mind. He would go to the competition tomorrow and try his best to make it to the semifinals. After all, on the surface, he was Qian Huanhan's servant, and Qian Huanhan would be responsible for everything. Even if there were patriarchs of the craftsmen's sect watching the preliminary round, there were so many participants. As long as he was careful, he would not be noticed. As long as he could make it to the semifinals, he would not have to do anything other than meet Lu Ling. Okay. Thank you, Brother Shi. Tomorrow, I will go to the competition and try my best. Lu Li cupped his fists and left to get ready. Out of curiosity, Lu Shi asked, Brother Lu, is Lu Ling very important to you? Lu Li thought about it and nodded. If she is the one I am looking for, then she must be very important, more important than my life. I wish you good luck tomorrow and that you can make it to the semifinals. Lu Shi patted Lu Li's shoulder and walked out with him. Lu Li did not go into the hall. He waited for Qian Huanhan outside, back at the Heaven Reverse Universe. He hated this kind of banquet. Now, he was not in the mood to meet the so-called beauties on the list. Rustle, rustle, rustle. A moment later, Qian Huanhan came out. He was supported by someone. His face was burning and his eyes were blurred. He was shaking and his legs were weak. Clearly, he was drunk. I'm not drunk. I can still drink. Even if Miss Cheese Toast is poison, I will still drink it. Not to mention wine, Qian Huanhan murmured as he was supported. Lu Li shook his head. This guy must have seen too many beauties and could not control himself. He must have gotten himself drunk. When Qian Huanhan was next to Lu Li, he lost his strength. He threw himself at Lu Li and hugged him. He looked at Lu Li with fascination and said, Lady Qi, you are so beautiful. You are like the moon in the sky. Slap. Lu Li punched him in his abdomen to wake him up. Qian Huanhan's armor of cold did not come out. He was in so much pain that he bent over like a shrimp. Chapter 13:18. Back at his own manor, Lu Li made Qian Huanhan a cup of strong tea. Qian Huanhan felt much more refreshed after drinking it. Well, what is it? Seeing that Lu Li was sitting there emotionlessly, Qian Huanhan scratched his head in embarrassment. Brother Li, did I drink too much? Did you do anything too embarrassing just now? Lu Li rolled his eyes. I don't know how you embarrassed yourself at the banquet. In any case, you've already been very embarrassed after coming out. I almost left you behind just now because standing with you is very embarrassing for me. Well, Qian Huanhan touched his burning cheeks and said in annoyance, I made Lady Dan mad. She provoked me at the banquet and encouraged a young Lady Qi to have a drinking contest with me. Lu Shi, Er's wine is very good. I felt delirious after one jar. That young Lady Qi is a good drinker. She is still calm after one jar. Idiot, you have been fooled. Lu Li was speechless. Qian Huanhan did not seem to have an EQ. How could he not see through such a simple trick? That young Lady Qi must have done something. Qian Huanhan was so silly that he fell into the trap. Maybe it was Lady Dan's plan to humiliate Qian Huanhan. Fooled? Qian Huanhan walked around for a while. It is possible. Lady Dan and young Lady Qi were flirting with each other. I think they were whispering to each other for a while. No. Qian Huanhan slammed the table. I must get back at them. I must have been humiliated. Damn it. My reputation is ruined just like this. You're not wise at all. Lu Li sighed. All right. Don't think about it. I will help you when there's chance. Now, let's talk about the competition between craftsmen. Competition? What kind of competition? Qian Huanhan blinked his eyes in confusion. Then he smiled bitterly and said, Brotherly, forget it. I've already embarrassed myself enough today. I don't want to embarrass myself tomorrow. Although yours is very powerful, there are many experts this time. Our meager strength is still not enough. Do you want to be famous? Lu Li stared at Qian Huanhan and said, Do you want to be famous? Do you want countless beautiful ladies to adore you? Do you want the ladies on the beauty list to look at you in a different light? Do you want to go back to the artifact pavilion and bully Miss Dan? Do you want to vent your anger? Lu Li's words excited Qian Huanhan. All the tipsiness was gone. His eyes glowed as he said, Yes, of course. Brotherly, I'll listen to you. I'll do whatever you say. All right then. Lu Li nodded and whispered to Qian Huanhan. Qian Huanhan nodded like a chick pecking at grains, acting as if Lu Li was the leader. At daybreak the next day, Qian Huanhan and Lu Li left. They went to Patriarch Gu and asked to join the tournament. Patriarch Gu knew Qian Huanhan's capabilities very well. Seeing Lu Li winking at him, Patriarch Gu knew it was Lu Li's idea. Patriarch Gu did not understand why Lu Li had to be so high profile. Since it was Lu Li's request, Patriarch Gu did not ask too many questions. He nodded and asked Patriarch Li to make the arrangements. Needless to say, Lady Dan had requested to go to the tournament. The patriarchs did not stop her. After all, Lady Dan was talented in forging artifacts. It would be beneficial for her to take part in such tournaments. Patriarch Li went to the craftsman's sect to make the arrangements. An hour later, he came back to inform everyone that they could go. Dragon Shueisha was not interested in the tournament. However, since Qian Huanhan had entered the inner city and was going to the tournament, Dragon Shueisha's interest was piqued. He wanted to go and watch. Several patriarchs showed Lady Dan, Qian Huanhan, and Lu Li to a plaza in the inner city. There would be over 1,000 participants in the tournament. Usually, a hall would not be able to accommodate all of them. Craftsman's sect would always choose to hold the tournament in the plaza. Qian Huanhan, you disgraced the Chamber of Relics yesterday. Lady Dan approached Qian Huanhan and said with mockery. Qian Huanhan was frightened, but he did not lose his temper. After all, Dragon Shueisha and the patriarchs were in front of him. Lady Dan was even more proud of Qian Huanhan's silence. She threw a glance at Lu Li and snorted. How can people like you go to the tournament? Do you think the Chamber of Relics has not been disgraced enough? Lu Li said nothing. Qian Huanhan wanted to argue, but Lu Li winked at him. Qian Huanhan pretended that he did not hear anything. When they arrived at the plaza, Lu Li took a look from the distance. He was relieved. There were many small black towers in the plaza. Clearly, they were there for people to forge artifacts. What worried Luli the most was that someone would find out that he was helping Qian Huanhan forge artifacts. What if he used the wicked bead or blood vine, and someone with ulterior motives would target him? The consequences would be dire. Patriarch Gu noticed Lu Li's expression from the corner of his eyes. He said, "Lu Li, do what you can. Nobody in the Tower of Relics can spy on you. This is the rule of the past generations. After all, everyone has their own unique skills. The Tower of Relics is built to protect the participants' secret skills so that they will not be disturbed." Luli could put his mind at ease. Patriarch Gu added, "But there is one thing you must remember. You can only use the materials in the Tower of Artifact. If you use your own materials, you will be found out and you will be accused of cheating." Luli nodded. They stepped into the plaza. The plaza was surrounded by auditorium seats. Many had already taken their seats. As far as the eye could see, there were at least tens of thousands of people here. Luli stood behind Qian Huanhan, keeping a low profile. He was wearing a cyan robe and had restrained his energy. He seemed to be nervous. He was pretending to be a servant. "Lu Shi and Holy Princess are here." He took a quick glance and noticed Lu Shi and Holy Princess. They looked at each other and communicated with each other through their eyes. Neither of them seemed to be in a strange mood. Many warriors were standing in the plaza. All of them were stronger than prefecture warriors. The immortals on the list were everywhere. The auditorium seats were packed with powerful warriors. Many mighty warriors from the divinity were here. Dozens of super mighty warriors like Dragon Shueisha were here as well. "Qian Huanhan, you are at number 370. Jiang Ruodin, you are at number 371. A chief steward came and gave Qian Huanhan a token. Qian Huanhan showed Lu Li to a Tower of Relics. Lu Li pretended to be low-key. He looked tense, like a bumpkin that had never seen the world. He had been observing secretly, trying to find the person that haunted his dreams. Unfortunately, Lu Li took a look at the tens of thousands of people at the plaza. He did not see that familiar person. He was a bit disappointed. Standing by tower number 370, Lu Li and Qian Huanhan waited quietly. Jiang Ruodin had been looking at them with mockery. Every now and then, she would look at Lu Shi, who was in the auditorium. When Lu Shi, looked at her, she would turn away as if nothing had happened. "Lady Dan, you have no chance." Chapter 1319. PFF. Lady Dan blushed. She spat and said angrily, "Shut up. Luli, when did I say that I like Lu Shi? He's just a stinking hooligan, a frivolous wastrel. I hate people like him the most." "Is that so?" Luli put on a faint smile. All of a sudden, he turned to Lu Shi and said with surprise, "Well, young Master Lu is looking at you? Has he changed his mind?" "Ah." Lady Dan turned to Lu Shi like a frightened rabbit, only to see that he was talking to a lady next to him in a low voice. Soon, she came back to her senses. She walked over to Lu Li and was about to lose her temper. "Calm down," Lu Li said to her with a smile. "Don't provoke me. Otherwise, if I say something bad about you to Lu Shi, you will lose all hope." "You." Lady Dan was fooled by Lu Li. Her eyes were wide open. Her interspatial ring glowed. She was ready to take out her weapon and fight Lu Li. Sensing that something was off, Qian Huanhan looked into the distance and said, "Stop it. Craftsman's sect is here." Qian Huanhan was telling the truth. From the north of the plaza came a group of people, wearing the black robes of the Craftsman's sect. Some of them were advanced in age, and some were middle-aged. All of them had extraordinary bearing. Clearly, they had been in high positions for a long time. Patriarch Lion, Patriarch Hawk, and Patriarch Snake are here. They are all masters of craftsmen. I didn't know that they are paying so much attention to our competition. Well, if we can perform well and be accepted as apprentices by the three patriarchs, then we will have a meteoric rise. Stop daydreaming. Masters of craftsmen will not accept apprentices at will. Why are they calling Patriarch Lion, Patriarch Hawk, and Patriarch Snake? Those are their code names. They are all apprentices of the master of the craftsman sect. Craftsman sect gave them this code name when they were young. The plaza was filled with noise. Luli looked at the three. One of them was a white-haired old man with a walking stick. Another was a black-haired, middle-aged man with eyes as sharp as an eagle's. And the last one was in a black robe, looking gloomy and cold. Silence. Elder Shur slammed the scepter in his hand onto the ground. Everyone felt their hearts tremble slightly, and the entire plaza instantly fell silent. Elder Shur nodded slightly at Long Shuesha and the other super experts. Only then did he sweep his gaze across the crowd and say, "The decennial myriad craftsman battle has been held once again. Ever since the craftsman sect was founded, it has been held every 10 years. Many young blacksmithing geniuses have appeared in the countless battles of 10,000 craftsmen. These people have all become divine craftsmen, great divine craftsmen, and grandmaster divine craftsmen. They had forged countless divine weapons that have been passed down from generation to generation. Many of the famous divine weapons on the divine weapon list have been forged by them. Would there be a genius weapon refiner appearing this time? Let's wait and see. I hereby announce the start of the battle of 10,000 craftsmen." After Elder Shur finished speaking, another elder began to announce the various rules. In fact, there weren't too many restrictions. It was only stipulated that they had to refine a divine tool or a tool embryo within 6 hours, or even set up a special formation. Finally, they had to hand it over to the elders for appraisal. In a battle of tens of thousands of craftsmen, the final product was the final product. It was useless to speak eloquently. Everything still depended on the product. As long as one could prove that one was exceptional in a certain aspect of forging artifacts, one could stand out. One by one, the craftsmen entered the Tower of Weapons. Many of them, like Qian Huanhan, had servants. Since many craftsmen considered themselves to be of high status, they were unwilling to do the dirty and tiring work. They would let their servants do the work. Sometimes, they would even need servants to help them control the furnace. A battle of tens of thousands of craftsmen did not care about one's abilities. As long as one could produce a good product, it would be fine even if 100 people worked together. For example, if one could make a supreme relic, the number of people did not matter. What mattered was that one could produce a good product. When Lu Li and Qian Huanhan entered the Tower of Weapons, they found a spacious space inside. It was a hall. There were more than a dozen stoves of different sizes in the hall. Materials were piled up on the ground. Craftsman's sect was well prepared. Lu Li went to check the materials at once, fulfilling his duty as a servant. Making sure that everything was fine, he activated the inhibition formation in the hall. He did not let Qian Huanhan forge artifacts at once. Instead, he took out some formation stones and began to set up in the hall. Soon, a simple formation was built. A semi-transparent shield came out and attached to the wall of the hall. "Brotherly, what is this?" Qian Huanhan asked, confused. "This is a simple formation," Lu Li explained. "I should be able to sense if someone tries to probe us by force." "Okay, go ahead." Qian Huanhan went to get some materials. Looking at Lu Li with uncertainty, he asked, "Brotherly, are we really going to make that thing you mentioned?" "Yes." Lu Li nodded with determination. Many craftsmen are participating in the competition of tens of thousands of craftsmen. Only 10 have made it to the semifinals. To stand out, we must take an unconventional approach. It doesn't matter if we fail. You won't lose anything, right? Okay. Qian Huanhan made up his mind. He began to work on the prototype while Lu Li sat on the side, sensing quietly. The formation he built was from Tian Lingzi's book collection. If someone tried to break through the formation and use psychic power to check them, Lu Li should be able to sense it. Working on the prototype was not difficult. In less than an hour, Qian Huanhan came back with a white ball in his arms. The ball was as thick as a person's head and hollow inside. There was nothing special about it. "Okay, go and have some rest. I will take care of the second step." Lu Li took over the ball and put his hand around it. He closed his eyes and circulated divine energy around his hands. He began the second step to carve the formations. I must succeed. He took a deep breath. He had spent the whole night last night, so there shouldn't be any problem. That being said, this was the first time that he had to carve such a complicated formation. If he failed, it would be troublesome. Last time, he carved 5 formations on the sword. This time, he was going to carve 10. The 10 formations were interconnected. The big formations were connected with the small ones, and the small ones were connected with each other. It was complicated. One mistake, and all his previous efforts would be in vain. Qian Huanhan watched nervously. He did not dare to breathe. He did not dare to use psychic power for fear that he might alarm Lu Li. He had to wait for the final result. This time, the carving of the formations would take a long time. It was at least 10 times more difficult than the last time. It would take a long time as well. According to Lu Li's estimation, he would need at least 2 hours. If he failed, he might not have a second chance. This time, he only had 6 hours. Lu Li's calculation was wrong. This time, he did not just spend 2 hours, but 3.5 hours. When he opened his eyes, he was frustrated. Failed. Qian Huanhan was taken aback by Lu Li's reaction. Lu Li shook his head tiredly and sighed. I did it, but there are flaws. It is not perfect. Not perfect. Chapter 13:20. Forging artifacts was meticulous work. Any slight flaw could lead to the failure of the relic, or at least, the grade of the relic would be degraded. Under normal circumstances, it would be fine since the relic could be made again. However, this was a competition. Lu Li and Qian Huanhan did not have the luxury of time. It was almost impossible for a flawed piece of work to stand out. In that case, Lu Li would not have the chance to go to the semifinals and meet Lu Ling. His trip to the craftsman's city would be in vain. Lu Ling was the number 2 on the list. Even Lu Shi, and Holy Princess could not enter her residence. She must have a powerful background, which was beyond Lu Li's imagination. Her information were confidential. If Lu Li could not meet her this time, it would be even less likely for him to meet her in the future. It could be decades or even centuries later. Lu Li decided to take the risk after some thoughts. He said to Qian Huanhan, keep an eye out for me. I will go into the interspatial artifact and try to fix the formation. Buzzing, Lu Li took out the wicked bead and dashed in. It was highly likely that he would be exposed. If a powerful warrior happened to be spying on him, the wicked bead would be exposed at once. Fix. Qian Huanhan was confused. How could the formation be fixed when there was a problem with it? That being said, Qian Huanhan had always trusted Lu Li, so he did not think too much. As for the wicked bead, Qian Huanhan did not pay much attention. He thought it was just an average interspatial artifact. This bead, what Qian Huanhan and Lu Li did not know was that someone was secretly checking inside the Tower of Weapons. Lu Li had built a formation, but it did not make any difference to that powerful warrior. He was a patriarch of the craftsman sect, a master craftsman, Patriarch Ying. Lu and Yin sent a message to Patriarch Ying, telling him that Qian Huanhan and Lu Li had forged a relic. Patriarch Ying was the representative of this generation of masters of formations. Patriarch Ying was not supposed to come to the competition of craftsmen. It was a master craftsman of formations that piqued Patriarch Ying's interest. Therefore, as soon as Qian Huanhan and Lu Li entered the Tower of Weapons, Patriarch Ying began to pay attention. A master craftsman wanted to check on Lu Li. Could Lu Li's formation stop him? Wicked bead. Patriarch Hawk recognized the wicked bead right away. After all, the wicked bead was the work that made Tian Lingzi famous. Later on, Tian Lingzi had been using the wicked bead. It was said that the wicked bead contained treasures collected by Tian Lingzi throughout his life. So you have learned Tian Lingzi's forging technique. No wonder you know how to condense formations. Elder Ying's eyes flickered slightly like a goshawk that had discovered a rabbit. Elder Shi sensed something and turned his head curiously, asking softly, "What's wrong, old eagle?" "It's nothing." Elder Ying smiled faintly and said, "I discovered something interesting. You'll know later." Since Elder Eagle didn't want to say anything, Elder sure didn't want to probe further. Elder Snake, who was beside him, also didn't probe further. When Lu Li went into the wicked bead, the immortal's body came over. Lu Li said to Blood Fairy, "There's something wrong with the formations I carved. Can you see how to fix them?" Given Lu Li's abilities, it was practically impossible to repair the formation or erase it and start over. Time was running out. Lu Li had to pin his hopes on the Bloodvine. The Bloodvine was gifted in inhibition formations. It was the only one that could help Lu Li. The immortal's body grabbed the iron ball Lu Li handed over. The Bloodvine reached out a tentacle into the iron ball. A moment later, Blood Fairy's voice came to Lu Li's mind. "Master, you have finished the 10 inhibition formations. It will be difficult to repair them. You might mess up all the inhibition formations. Is there no other way?" Lu Li was worried. If even Blood Fairy could not find a way, then the fight would be a complete failure. Blood Fairy said after a moment of silence, "I do have a way. I could try to change the formation patterns. But once I do that, it will turn into a different kind of formation. I don't know the specific effect. Change?" Lu Li's eyes glowed. Formations were a matter of great care. Changing one pattern at random could result in the entire formation changing drastically or rendering it ineffective. If Blood Fairy changed it into something neither fish nor fowl, then it would be even more troublesome. But did Lu Li have any other options? Change. Soon, Lu Li made up his mind. He remembered the test he took at the Chamber of Relics. Back then, Blood Fairy changed several spirit-gathering formations. When they were integrated, the formation became more powerful. That was the reason why Lu Li entered the Chamber of Relics. Perhaps this modification could make the array even more powerful? The Bloodvine's tentacle glowed in red. She began to change the formation. The Bloodvine clan had a strange divine power that allowed them to merge into a magic formation and change it easily without damaging it. Time moved on. Lu Li's heart was in his throat. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, Blood Fairy finally said, "Master, it is done. But I don't know the specific effect. The formation is flawless now. It is perfect." Lu Li checked it once. The formation had changed so much that he could not even tell what it was. But he checked the patterns. They were in order, connected, and interconnected. It seemed to be perfect, without any flaw or problem. Never mind. Let's make every possible effort. Lu Li dashed out and reappeared in the Tower of Relics. Time was of the essence. He threw the iron ball to Qian Huanhan and said, "Do the next 2 steps. Do your best." "Is it done?" Qian Huanhan asked in delight. Lu Li shook his head. "I don't know. Don't worry about it. Focus on sealing the artifact spirits and stabilizing the formation. Do not fail. Otherwise, we will not have another chance." "Okay." Qian Huanhan took a deep breath. He was solemn. He checked the formation and then took over the bead of artifact spirit to check. There were many artifact spirits sealed in the bead of artifact spirit. For a moment, Qian Huanhan did not know which one to choose. After all, he did not know what kind of formation Lu Li had built. Lu Li could tell that Qian Huanhan was struggling. To be honest, Qian Huanhan did not know which one to seal. Lu Li made up his mind and said, "Choose the best one. Don't worry about the attribute." "All right." Qian Huanhan threw caution to the wind. He began to seal the artifact spirit. He poured Xian energy into the bead. From the bead of artifact spirit came out a red shadow of a lion. A dark glove appeared in Qian Huanhan's hand. He grabbed the artifact spirit and shoved it into the bead. Then, divine energy began to seal the artifact spirit. "Aha, is a good fit. Brotherly, we are lucky." Qian Huanhan grinned after a while. Then he stopped to calm himself down and began the last step. After the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, Qian Huanhan patted the stove. The lid flew up and a white iron ball flew up. The white iron ball was glowing and it was quite intimidating. "Nice ball." Qian Huanhan took over the iron ball and took a look. He was excited. He did not know what the ball could be used for, but it was definitely a good ball. P.S. I suddenly received a notice that I had to go to a cultural conference in Japan. The old monster did not have any notes. Chapter 1321. Lu Li and Qian Huanhan had been in the Tower of Artifact for over 4 hours. Some of the participants had come out and submitted the relics they made to the patriarchs for appraisal. Qian Huanhan coming out with Lu Li caught some attention. Long Shuasha and Patriarch Gu checked with psychic power to see what Qian Huanhan had made. Patriarch Ing looked over like a hawk, but he looked away after a quick glance. He had not seemed to care. Patriarch Snake and Patriarch Sure also noticed Patriarch Ying's look. They both looked at the iron ball in Qian Huanhan's hands. Qian Huanhan walked over and handed the iron ball to a disciple of the craftsman's sect. Lady Dan had made a relic. Seeing that Qian Huanhan submitted an iron ball, Lady Dan walked over and said with disdain, "Qian Huanhan, what are you making? Is this a bird's egg?" Qian Huanhan pouted. "Can you make a bird's egg? Why don't you show me one?" Lady Dan sneered. "Your item is no different from a bird's egg. You are shameless enough to send it for appraisal. Are you trying to tarnish the reputation of the Chamber of Relics?" Qian Huanhan asked back, "Lady Dan, what kind of relic did you make? I wonder how it will be evaluated. Is it a supreme relic that can enter the semi-finals?" "I don't know." Lady Dan stuck out her not-so-proud breasts and said blandly, "I dare say that the divine weapon I make will be ranked in the top 100. Really? Let's wait and see then." Qian Huanhan did not want to argue with Lady Dan. As for Lu Li, he had been following Qian Huanhan, keeping a low profile, saying nothing. Lu Li observed the relics being appraised, feeling nervous. Many relics had been submitted. They would be appraised by the 3 skilled craftsmen first. If the relics were outstanding, they would be presented to the 3 patriarchs for appraisal. Number 643, refined, a high-grade divine artifact, medium grade. Number 902, refined, a middle-grade divine artifact. Its quality is inferior. Eliminated directly. Number 197 eliminated. After every divine artifact was appraised, a disciple would announce the result loudly. Only 100 divine weapons would be chosen for this 10,000 craftsman competition. Those who could enter the top 100 would be rewarded by the craftsman's sect. In the end, 10 artifacts would be chosen from these 100 artifacts to enter the semifinals. Number 371. A deep shout came from a northern platform. Miss Dan immediately became nervous. The Dragon Blood Fiend, Elder Gu, and the others all raised their heads, wanting to see what results Miss Dan had obtained. Number 371. Refined, a high-grade divine artifact, high quality in appearance. As soon as the disciple of the craftsman's sect finished his words, Lady Dan smiled and glanced at Qian Huanhan proudly. If the quality was good, it was almost certain to enter the top 100, and there was even a possibility of entering the semifinals. Congratulations, Miss Dan. Miss Dan, you are awesome. A few young masters walked over to congratulate Lady Dan. Lady Dan was a rare genius disciple of the Chamber of Relics. Her future was limitless, and it was almost certain that she would become a great divine craftsman. There was a high chance that she would become a master craftsman. If they could win the heart of a beauty, those young masters would be happy even if they had to marry into the Jiang family. Lady Dan chatted indifferently with the young masters in a low voice, but she would glance at Lu Shi every now and then. It was a pity that Lu Shi was not looking at her. Instead, he was chatting with a noble lady. Lady Dan pulled a long face. This guy is impressive. He always seduces noble ladies and makes them cuckold. Isn't he afraid that he will be in trouble? Lu Li glanced over. The noble lady next to Lu Shi was blushing and her eyes were filled with lust. She must have been seduced. Lu Li shook his head. It was not a problem for Lu Shi to like noble ladies. Given his status and temperament, it was easy for him to seduce them. What was rare was that despite his reputation as a womanizer, he had never offended anyone too powerful. He was still alive and well. Number 618. More relics were revealed. Not many were rated as high quality. A high-quality artifact might not necessarily make it to the top 100. On the other hand, if a relic could not even be rated as high quality, it would be impossible for it to make it to the top 100, let alone enter the semifinals. Every time there was a competition between craftsmen, there would be many masters and talents. An hour later, it was finally time for the iron ball made by Qian Huanhan and Lu Li. Lu Li and Qian Huanhan were nervous. Patriarch Gu, Long Shuasha, and the others looked at the iron ball, waiting for the result. Holy Princess looked up. Lu Shi stopped chatting with the noble lady. Even Lady Dan stopped chatting with the young masters. She turned to the stage, waiting for the result. A master craftsman on the stage took over the iron ball. He looked at it with confusion. Then, he poured divine energy into the iron ball. The iron ball glowed. A suffocating energy came from the iron ball. What is this? The master craftsman blinked. He tried several times, but could not understand. He threw the iron ball to another master craftsman next to him. What is this? Lady Dan put on a mocking smile. She looked at Qian Huanhan with disdain and said, "Even the master craftsman of the craftsman's sect said you were making something. It seems that what you are making is not a toy." Long Shuasha and Patriarch Gu looked at each other, frowning. What did the master craftsman of the craftsman's sect say Qian Huanhan was making? Did that mean that what Qian Huanhan was making was not even a relic? Otherwise, why could the master craftsman not understand? Holy Princess and Lu Shi looked at each other in bewilderment, not understanding what was going on. They both knew that Lu Li was good at inhibition formations. How come a master craftsman could not understand a relic he was making? Qian Huanhan and Lu Li were confused as well. Qian Huanhan did not know what formation Lu Li had built. Lu Li himself did not know either. The formation Lu Li created was altered by Bloodvine. Even he could not understand it. The second master craftsman took over the iron ball. He studied it for a while and shook his head. He gave it to the next master craftsman without giving any comment. The third master craftsman had a discussion with the other two masters. Shaking his head, the third master said, "This relic is neither fish nor fowl. Just eliminate it. Eliminate it." Lu Li and Qian Huanhan were taken aback. Lu Shi's eyes flickered. Holy Princess was surprised. Patriarch Gu frowned again. Long Shuasha looked away, emotionless. The other patriarchs were not happy. Lady Dan put on a mocking smile. She looked at Qian Huanhan and whispered, "I told you not to come, and you did not believe me. Now, you have disgraced the Chamber of Relics." Qian Huanhan curled his lips, but did not say anything. It would be more shameful to argue with Lady Dan. "This is not right," Lu Li frowned. "Theoretically speaking, after the Bloodvine modified the formation, it should be more powerful. How could it be eliminated?" "Wait a minute." Right at that moment, Patriarching suddenly said. He waved his hand and said, "Let me have a look at the iron ball." Swish, 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 Patriarch Gu, Long Shuasha, Lu Li, Lu Shi, and the other patriarchs all turned to Patriarching. A master craftsman was suddenly interested in the iron ball. Was there a chance? P.S. I stayed up all night to write a few chapters. I can only write one chapter a day for the next couple of days. I brought my notebook with me to make sure that I can update constantly. Chapter 1322. Just as they were about to announce Qian Huanhan's team's elimination, Eldering opened his mouth, and the great divine craftsman quickly handed the metal ball to Eldering with both hands. Elder Ying's strange behavior attracted a lot of attention. After all, he was a grandmaster divine craftsman. Many weapons of the super powerful and even the most powerful in the divine world were forged by him. The three divine craftsmen had seen some divine artifacts earlier, but they didn't express much of an opinion. Now, Eldering suddenly wanted to take a look at a divine weapon that was supposed to be eliminated. Such an unusual behavior naturally attracted a lot of attention. Eldering took the metal ball and scanned it with his divine will. Then he infused his divine power into it and closed his eyes to sense it. However, there was no change in his expression. No one could tell what was wrong with him. Eldering had been sensing for half an hour, and he still had not opened his eyes. Elder Shi and Elder Snake were a little interested, and they turned their gazes over. Eldering had been acting a little strange before, and his current behavior made the two divine craftsman grandmasters extremely curious. Elder Shur, Elder Snake, take a look. A moment later, Eldering opened his eyes. Still expressionless, he passed the metal ball to Elder Shur. Elder Shur took it and infused his divine power into it. Soon his eyes flashed, and he closed his eyes. The three great divine craftsmen stopped appraising the divine weapon. They stared at Elder Shur with a hint of shame on their faces. Just now, they had all examined this metal ball, but in the end, they still chose to be eliminated. Now that Elder Ing and Elder Shur were paying so much attention to it, they felt their faces burning with shame. Elder Shur also sensed for half an hour. Still, he said nothing and passed the metal ball to Elder Snake. He exchanged a look with Elder Ing and said telepathically, "Elder Ing, why does this thing look like the lost sky quake thunder?" "Yes," Elder Ing replied telepathically, "but there are some differences. Also, there is a difference in the forging technique, and the array is not comprehensive enough. Its power is far from the skyquake thunder. But I can see the potential. If he continues to study it, it is very possible that he can create the skyquake thunder. Also, this person not only has the technique of condensing arrays, but also disrupting arrays. He is a genius." Skyquake thunder. Elder Shur sighed and said, "Back then, when that person created it, it shook the entire immortal world. Unfortunately, he offended a powerful force and was mercilessly killed in the end. Otherwise, with his refining talent, it wouldn't be a problem for him to become a grandmaster or even a craftsman god." During the exchange, Elder Snake had also finished his investigation. He exchanged glances with Elder Eagle and Elder Lion before nodding. Eldering paused for a moment and passed the metal ball to the great divine craftsman. He then said indifferently, "You can enter the semi-finals with this." Huh. The entire square was in an uproar because this was the first person to directly enter the semi-finals. And he was almost eliminated just now. Now, the situation had taken a turn for the better, and they could directly enter the semifinals. Many people thought they had misheard. Semifinals? Long Shuasha had a stunned look on his face as he looked at Elder Gu. Elder Gu was slightly taken aback. Then, he stroked his long beard with a calm expression. He nodded slightly and said, "This kid is not bad. He didn't embarrass me." The other elders looked at Elder Gu with disdain. When he heard that he was going to be eliminated, Elder Gu's face had darkened. However, at this moment, it was as if everything was going according to his plan, and he had once again put on a show. "Ha! Ha! Lu Shur!" And Holy Princess's eyes glowed. Lu Shur peeked at Lu Li and curled his lips. Then, he went back to chatting with the lady next to him. "What a freak!" Holy Princess murmured. She lowered her head as if she no longer cared about what was going on. Directly into the semi-finals? Lady Dan's cherry mouth was open so wide that a cucumber could be stuffed in. She blinked, pointed to Qian Huanhan, and said, "Qian Huanhan, you are in the semi-finals? Did I hear that right?" Qian Huanhan was taken aback as well. But as soon as Lady Dan spoke, he put on a smile. He tidied up his hair, flicked his sleeves, and said casually, "It is just a fluke. Lady Dan, I believe you can enter the semi-finals as well. I will see you there." Slap, slap, slap. Lady Dan felt Qian Huanhan had slapped her face several times. She trembled with anger, looking at how arrogant Qian Huanhan was. She knew her place. It was not a problem for her to make it to the top 100, but it was wishful thinking to enter the semi-finals. Number 530 has a supreme relic. Directly into the semi-finals. The disciples on the stage shouted. The crowd was in an uproar. Many people turned to Qian Huanhan. Many young ladies were looking at Qian Huanhan with passion. Qian Huanhan was excited. What Luli said last night had happened. Luli asked Qian Huanhan if he wanted to be famous. Did he want many beautiful young ladies to fall in love with him? Did he want the young ladies on the list of beauty to see him in a different light? Did he want to go back to the Chamber of Relics and bully Lady Dan? Did he want to vent his anger? Now, everything had come true. Lady Dan had been bullied by Qian Huanhan. After today, he would be famous. Many young ladies were looking at him with passion. He also saw some beautiful young ladies on the list of beauty looking at him, which pleased him. He felt like he was floating. Phew. Luli had been keeping a low profile. He breathed in relief. He did not ask for much other than to go to the semifinals, to see Lu Ling and make sure that she was his sister. Now that they were going to the semifinals, Qian Huanhan and Lu Li didn't have to linger around the Tower of Relics. Qian Huanhan led Lu Li to the auditorium. At the auditorium, Qian Huanhan and Lu Li bowed to Patriarch Gu and then to Long Xuesha. Not bad. You didn't disgrace me. Patriarch Gu nodded. He seemed to be at ease, as if this was nothing worth mentioning. Long Xuesha nodded in approval. Qian Huanhan, you did well. Later, I will report to the chief, and he will reward you handsomely. Keep up the good work. If you can achieve a good result in the semifinals, I believe the entire Chamber of Relics will be proud of you. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Elder Long. Qian Huanhan was flattered. Long Xuesha was a super mighty warrior, the second most powerful person in the Chamber of Relics. Usually, Long Xuesha would not even look at Qian Huanhan. Qian Huanhan did not expect that Long Xuesha would speak so highly of him. The other patriarchs gave their compliments. Qian Huanhan was grinning from ear to ear. Lady Dan stood on the side with a gloomy face. She was a talent that was hard to come by in a million years in the Chamber of Relics. Now, she had lost to Qian Huanhan. Okay, enjoy yourselves here. We will go back now. Long Xuesha waved his hand and left with Patriarch Gu and the others. For them, the preliminary round was not worth watching. Only the semifinals were worth watching. Young Master Qian Huanhan, as soon as Long Xuesha and the others left, several beautiful young ladies came over and surrounded Qian Huanhan. Some others came over and handed over their name cards, asking Qian Huanhan to attend a banquet on behalf of their masters. Qian Huanhan became the center of attention at the auditorium. He was in the limelight. Chapter 1323. Seeing that Qian Huanhan was surrounded by a group of young ladies, Lu Li was not envious at all. Instead, he felt lucky. It was fortunate that he and Patriarch Gu came up with a good plan, or else he would be the one being surrounded. The divinity was full of powerful warriors, and danger lurked everywhere. Without a strong background, if one were to keep a low profile, one could lose his life easily. Someone might shoot an arrow from a dark corner. What was more, Lu Li had many enemies. Before he could protect himself, Lu Li believed it was better to keep a low profile. Lu Li stood on the side obediently, playing the role of a servant. The master craftsman from the craftsman's sect kept on appraising relics. More and more relics were selected, and some were eliminated. An hour later, another person was confirmed to be in the semifinals, and it was a girl. Lu Li heard that it was a talented girl from the craftsman's sect. He wondered if there was any inside story. After another hour, all the divine artifacts were appraised, and the rankings came out very quickly. Lady Dan was not bad. She made it to the top 100, but had no chance to enter the semifinals. Lady Dan left in a huff. If it were not for Qian Huanhan and Lu Li, she would be in a good mood. However, Qian Huanhan had stolen all the limelight. Apart from feeling embarrassed, there was no point for her to stay. More and more people walked toward Qian Huanhan. After all, he could make it to the semifinals at such a young age. In the future, Qian Huanhan would have a good achievement in forging artifacts. Maybe he could become a master craftsman. It would be easier for him to build a good relationship with a future master craftsman. In the future, it would be easier for him to buy good relics. Masters of swordsmen enjoyed a special status in the divinity. To build a good relationship with a master craftsman was a good connection. Lu Li had been standing on the side, keeping a low profile. Nobody showed any interest. Patriarch Ing did not even look at him. After all the relics were appraised, Patriarch Ing, Patriarch Shi, and Patriarch Snake left. A moment later, Lu Li saw Qian Huanhan, who was surrounded by people, shaking his head. Lu Li sneaked back by himself. He had achieved his goal, which was to enter the semifinals and meet Lu Ling. Nothing else mattered. Back in the yard, Lu Li was called into Patriarch Gu's room. Patriarch Gu asked after the inhibition formation was activated, "Lu Li, what did you make? How did you make it to the semifinals?" Elder Gu pretended to be calm, but he was actually very curious. As a matter of fact, he did not teach Qian Huanhan and Lu Li much. He merely gave them some books. If the two could reach such a level with just those books, then they would be geniuses. I'm not too sure about the specifics. Lu Li chose to hide the truth. After all, he did not want the blood vine to be known. He gave a vague answer. I built 10 formations, and the rest was done by the 1,000 phantasms. 10 spell formations? Patriarch Gu looked at Lu Li with suspicion. He took out a pen and paper and said, "Draw the formation patterns." Lu Li knew that Patriarch Gu had spent his entire life in forging artifacts. It would be hard to fool him. He began to draw on the paper, drawing on the formation that he had previously inscribed. Patriarch Gu threw a casual glance. His eyes glowed as he looked at Lu Li and said, "You can carve 10 such complicated formations now." Lu Li nodded. Patriarch Gu exclaimed, "Lu Li, you are very talented in forging artifacts. You have figured out such complicated formations on your own in such a short time. Well done. Master, you have taught me well." Lu Li pretended to be modest, but on the inside, he was embarrassed. He did not learn it himself, but the blood vine. Otherwise, it would have taken him at least 8 to 10 years to carve such formations. Good, very good. The more Patriarch Gu looked at Lu Li, the more he liked him. He nodded and said, "When we go back, I will do my best to guide you in forging artifacts. Try to become a master craftsman in 3 years. In 10 years, you could become a master craftsman. In 20 to 30 years at most, you could become a master craftsman. By then, you can join the craftsman's sect and become a patriarch. It will be easy for you to kill Cho Qianjun." "Thank you, Master." Lu Li thanked at once and said with determination, "Master, don't worry. I will never forget this. I will not be a man until I kill Cho Qianjun." "Okay," Patriarch Gu nodded. "Have a good rest. Try to do well in the semifinals tomorrow." No, Lu Li did not want to hide this from Patriarch Gu. He cupped his fists and said, "I will not do anything tomorrow. I will ask Qian Huanhan to make a piece of junk. I am here to meet someone, not to make a name for myself." "Well, do whatever you want. It is good enough that you can make it to the semifinals." Patriarch Gu did not care about that. What he cared about was Lu Li's improvement in forging artifacts. It would not be good if Lu Li performed well in the semifinals. What if some patriarch of the craftsman's sect took a fancy to Lu Li and took him in as a protege? Should Patriarch Gu let Lu Li go? Lu Li went back to his room. Qian Huanhan had not come back yet. It seemed that he would come back late today. He must be trapped in the flowers and did not know where to go. He was right. Lu Li stayed in the room for a whole day. It was not until midnight that Qian Huanhan staggered out. He reeked of rouge and alcohol. As soon as he came back, he threw himself onto the bed and looked at Lu Li with infatuation. "Brother Li, thank you. This is the happiest day of my life." Lu Li rolled his eyes. "You should think about how to pass the semifinals tomorrow." "I will not do anything tomorrow. I'm just going to find someone." Hearing Lu Li's words, Qian Huanhan sobered up. Lu Li was abandoning him. If Lu Li did not do anything, what could Qian Huanhan make tomorrow? By then, he would become a laughingstock. All the girls around him would leave and spurn him in every possible way. Qian Huanhan climbed up quickly. He grabbed Lu Li and cried, "Brother Li, Boss Li, you cannot do this. You are burning bridges after crossing the river. I really cannot do anything." Lu Li said seriously. Then, he added, "There should be a tower of artifact tomorrow. When you go in, sit with your legs crossed and do not do anything. When you come out later, say that you have failed. Any craftsman can fail. This is normal. You have made it to the semifinals. This in itself can prove many things." "That is a good idea." Qian Huanhan scratched his head. "Brother Li, I think I've been tricked by you. What are you talking about?" Make yourself clear. Lu Li glared at him. Qian Huanhan touched his forehead and said with a bitter face, "You've overestimated me. I can't come down now. If I cannot improve my skills in forging artifacts in the future, I will become a joke in the world of forging artifacts and even in the divinity. Do you want to enjoy the limelight for a while, or do you want to be mediocre forever?" Lu Li asked. "You are enjoying the limelight today, aren't you? So, when you go back, you must work harder and try to become a master craftsman. There are disadvantages as well as advantages for me to elevate you to this position. You have no other way out. You must work 10 times harder than others in order to enjoy the limelight, right?" That makes sense. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.